I see the hall. $6,500. Okay, so. Can in his hand. The trooper care, I had found that earlier in the day, set it on the bench, and all of a sudden Mike's trying to. Good evening, everybody. The meeting of the St. Helens City Budget Committee will come to order. The time is now 6 p.m. It's May 7th. Let's begin with, I'm going to ask everybody to turn their phones off. Please turn the noise of your phones off, including visitors. We'll start with introduction of everybody at the table. I'll start. I'm Lou Mason, a citizen member of the Budget Committee.
Brandon Sunding, City Councilor.
Jeremy Evans, citizen member of the Budget Committee.
Mark Anderson, Counselor.
Russell Bird, Counselor.
Evan Salas, citizen member.
Just Chilton, Council President.
Steve Toskey, citizen member of the Budget Committee.
And good evening, John Walsh, City Administrator.
Good evening, Jennifer Massey, Mayor.
Gloria Butch, Finance Director and Budget Officer.
Go back here too.
I'm Jennifer Johnson, here at the city. Jamie Edwards.
Great. Everyone has received a copy of the agenda. Any questions or comments on that? Additions or deletions?
I do have a delete or addition at some point in here. Before we start talking about the budget, we need to go around for conflicts of interest. Oh, take care of that.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna take care of it? Okay, I didn't see it on the agenda, so making sure that we cover it. Thank you.
Okay. Gloria will take care of any conflict of interest notices. So let's talk about the review, the role of the budget committee. Ground rules and declaration of conflict, like we said. Gloria, Butch, would you address that?
So ground rules to ensure a productive and successful budget committee. Here are the ground rules for the meetings. The committee members will act professionally and respectfully during the meeting. Committee members need to remember they are serving the community. Political ambitions and personal agendas and vendettas do not have a place in here and should be left at home. The City Hall Rules of Conduct requires that people behave in a manner that is not harassing or annoying under the circumstances, which includes refraining from personal attacks. That includes the gallery. Budget committee members must refrain from personal attacks and instead raise their views in ways that are not personal to a specific person. That includes the gallery. Everyone in on the committee has a voice and is expected to represent the community as a whole. Your professional city staff has worked hard to bring you a proposed budget that is based on council priorities. Please be respectful of city staff. We are part of the community that you are representing. Any additional documentation requested must be agreed to by a majority of the committee to determine relevance to the committee's decision. The Urban Renewal Agency budgets will be presented at the May 28 meeting, a copy of which will be available on May 26th. Declaration of conflict of interest statement. Oregon law requires public officials to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest when taking an official action. As budget committee members, you are all public officials and subject to this ethics requirement. For background, a potential conflict of interest means an agenda item may have a financial benefit or detriment to them, a relative or a business they are associated with. An actual conflict of interest means an agenda item will have a financial benefit or detriment to them, a relative or a business they are associated with. If a person is met with a potential conflict of interest, they must disclose it. If they are met with an actual conflict of interest, they must disclose it and refrain from discussing or voting on the topic. One exception to this rule has been adopted in 2025 through Senate Bill 983, adopted in 2025, which allows a public official to participate in discussions and vote on city budgets, even if the budget includes compensation for themselves or a relative, provided they announce an actual conflict of interest first. Would any budget committee members like to declare a conflict of interest at this time? If so, please also declare the nature of the conflict of interest.
Should we go around the table?
Sure.
I have none.
No. None.
None.
No.
For disclosure, so I want to, for the record, my spouse is employed by the city of St. Helen as a police officer because the budget includes benefits. For city position, I'm announcing an actual conflict under ORS 244120 as amended by Senate Bill 983, Oregon Law 2025, Chapter 466. I may participate and vote on, participate in discussion and vote on the adoption of the local budget after making this disclosure. And I do respectfully also want to make sure that Mr. Toski doesn't have any open litigation still that's unresolved with the city of St. Helens that also may be a conflict respectively.
My conflicts, there are none.
Okay, any other conflicts? Okay, noted. This time we'll elect budget committee officers. I will ask for nominations for chairman of the budget committee for 1 year.
How about you, Lou?
Nominate Lou Mason.
Second.
Do you accept?
Lou Mason has been nominated. Any of them? Any other nominations? I accept. And now a nomination for vice chairman. I want to nominate Jeremy Evans. We need a vice chairman. Jeremy Evans.
Welcome to the party.
Accept.
Any opposition?
What does he feel? How does Jeremy feel about it? It's his first time in his budget commission, just the budget committee. And I mean, he's never been in a meeting, never once appeared. And he's being nominated as, I don't even know what his role. But then I guess if you're gone, he'll resign.
I think that's, and I was vice chair, the first meeting I ever attended also, so I think it's something that's easily attainable. Jeremy, how do you feel about that?
I feel good about it, and maybe just note that outside of the public space, I have chaired a number of committees and been in countless number of meetings on financial matters.
Great. Any other nominations for vice chair? I'll approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Jeremy Evans, your vice chair. Thank you.
We vote you in, Lou? I don't know if we
Oh,
vote you in.
all in favor for Lou Mason to be chairman, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Anyway, I'm in.
You almost dodged that one. Jeremy, it was almost your ball.
Duties immediately.
I know, you almost had it right.
So everybody got a copy of the minutes from last year's last meeting. Are there any exceptions or objections to those minutes? You all received these by email prior to the meeting today. If there are no objections or corrections, I will look motion to approve the minutes, yeah.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Any second to approve the minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Minutes of last year's last budget meeting is hereby approved. Gloria, would you give us a budget message for this year?
Thank you. Proposed budget for fiscal year 2027 is presented with three scenarios for the general fund. Once again, this year's budget process has proven exceptionally challenging with difficult decisions necessary to maintain the city's financial health. As a result of the decisions made by the committee for the fiscal year 2026 budget, the ending fund balance for the general fund is estimated to be less than 1 month's payroll. Staff has strived to present a balanced budget whereby anticipated expenses aligned with projected revenues while funding the city's desired services throughout the community. Just as in our message for the last several years, the fiscal reality is that there is more demand for services than available funding, and the city must prioritize its resources to achieve the highest outcomes. Prior to year end, June 30, 2026, the city council and city administrator have implemented cost-saving measures in the form of service reductions through furloughs and layoffs of personnel. As in previous years, this proposed budget is constructed to provide desired services to our community utilizing available resources. There's clearly a deficit in resources. The Columbia View Park improvements and urban renewal waterfront improvements that include the downtown infrastructure project are complete. This infrastructure investment will serve as the catalyst for attracting investment in the riverfront district and improve the city's finances and livability. In addition to these projects, the sale of the mill property to the city's industrial part, the Arcadia, and resumption of paper making operations at the mill in time for the property to be back on the tax rolls for fiscal year 2027 will provide some increase in property tax revenue. The following is a summary of changes for the fiscal year 2027 budget. In the general fund in the past few years, with an eye toward optimizing and maintaining services, the general fund budget was infused with non-recurring revenue. The use of non-recurring revenue is not sustainable. So as in fiscal year 2026, the use of non-recurring revenue is not contemplated in this fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. Last year, the Budget Committee had the opportunity to remedy the continuing decline of general fund reserves and to maintain all general services at the level desired by the community. The Budget Committee failed to make a sustainable choice of recurring revenue. Now, the only way to generate a new recurring revenue source, it must first be approved by the voters. City Council has submitted to the voters a ballot initiative to approve a $24 per month general service fee. However, even if that passes, it will not generate enough revenue to fully sustain services. Therefore, the tough decisions were made to lay off all part-time personnel as well as the administrative assistant position that supports planning, building, and engineering, one administrative billing assistant from the finance division, and the code enforcement officer. In addition to reductions in personnel, all departments have reduced professional development budgets to a minimum amount to maintain certifications and reductions in various departments for operating supplies, recruiting, and professional services. In addition to the layoffs, positions that are included in the fiscal year 2026 budget that will not be filled in fiscal year 2027 are a detective sergeant, a police records and evidence specialist, one patrol officer, and a planning assistant. Those will not be filled. If the general service fee ballot initiative fails, staff have also prepared a second proposed general fund budget, which will pull the police department out of the general fund and into a standalone special revenue fund called Police Services Fund. The general fund is balanced with the service reductions as noted and no further reductions and a 20% reserve. The Police Services Fund will receive any remaining general revenue from the general fund and reduce services to balance with at least a 10% reserve. Ending fund balances and reserves. The city's adopted financial policies strive to maintain a minimum reserve fund balance of 20% in the general fund. This policy is indicated in the graph as the yellow line based on the model. The city has dropped below the policy for several years in a row and has nearly exhausted the fund. It is imperative that the city make the necessary adjustments to align revenues with expenditures and maintain the long-term fiscal health of our community. The proposed budget is balanced with a place marker in the general fund to show the amount needed for the general fund to have a 20% ending fund balance. Special revenue funds. The first one is in tourism, the tourism fund. The tourism program funding is held in the tourism fund. The city will continue to receive lodging tax revenues into the fund along with other dedicated and reserved revenues. The events production will be managed by the third-party contractor, where the contractor will manage the day-to-day operations of the program. The contractor will be responsible for producing income and expenses reports for the city. The Community Development Fund holds the city's community and economic development projects, including the industrial park activities, central waterfront development, riverfront development, and the forestry program. The fund has seen a large influx of funding from grants and loans in relation to the development of the riverfront property, industrial business park, and central waterfront. These projects are and will be instrumental in economic development and economic recovery, helping to attract commercial and industrial businesses as well as tourism. For fiscal year 2027, the major activities will include construction of a new electrical substation at the industrial business park. The substation will be a pass-through loan from Business Oregon for PGE to build a substation on a portion of the mill site. The purpose of this project is to support economic development opportunities at the industrial business park. The Community Enhancement Fund will continue to be used for grant appropriations for specific departments such as the library, parks, recreation, and others. This fund is used to help track grants and resources outside of the general fund. Most significant activity has been in support of recreation programs and opioid funds to support police services that target education and prevention of drug abuse. The streets fund, with limited funding available, street projects are limited to general street maintenance. There's a planned transportation master plan in the CIP to inform us of current and future projects and improvements that are beyond general maintenance. Capital projects funds. The SDC funds are capital projects funds. The city collects system development charges, SDCs, to offset the growth impacts on our utilities and public facilities, streets, water, sewer, storm, and parks. Not all projects are SDC eligible, and the master planning process identifies which projects are or are not eligible. Within the capital improvement plan portion of the budget document, you'll find SDC eligible projects projected over the next 5 years. The most notable project anticipated in the next fiscal year will be for a water reservoir and sewer system capacity projects. These projects will span multiple fiscal years. The other capital projects fund is the Public Safety Facility Fund. This fund is dedicated to the construction of the police station. In September 2026, the city will be required to pay arbitrage because the proceeds were kept in the local government investment pool and substantially unused for construction within 5 years from the time of the receipt of the bond proceeds. Now the city must return investment earnings that exceed the interest rate on the bonds to the bond investors. The project well underway and expected completion in fall of 2027. There will be a transfer of $1,750,000 from the Community Development Fund reserves to cover purchase of the property and project contingency and hopefully avoid the need of an additional loan. The enterprise funds are the water fund, sewer fund, and storm fund. In the water fund, to meet the needs of the city's drinking water program, rates will need to be adjusted for fiscal year 2027 as recommended in the 2025 rate study. The proposed budget includes a rate adjustment of 6.35% for fiscal year 2027. These rates are a result of an updated water master plan that identified new capital projects that are reflected in the 5-year capital improvement plan. Some capital projects noted in the master plan have been deferred intentionally to reduce the burden and maintain a positive cash flow balance over the forecast 5-year period. Annual maintenance costs have also been reduced to preserve the fund balance over the next 5 years. The effect of this rate adjustment on the average household will be an approximate $3.92 increase. The notable ongoing water project this fiscal year is a new 5 million gallon water storage reservoir. The land that was identified in the reservoir siting study appraised at slightly over $1.5 million and budgeted for $1 million in fiscal year 2026. However, this purchase will be made in fiscal year 2027. Expected funding will be from revenue bonds. Design costs in fiscal year 2027 are budgeted at $2.5 million and funded with a community development block grant. This is a federal grant. Construction is expected to begin in fiscal year 2028 with an estimated cost of $20 million and will require a loan or revenue bonds. In the sewer fund, to meet the needs of the city's sanitary sewer program, rates will need to be adjusted for fiscal year 2027 as recommended in the 2025 rate study. The proposed budget includes a sewer rate adjustment of 4.64% for fiscal year 2027. The city's updated wastewater master plan identified many deficiencies in the collection system. The capital improvement plan lays out the planned projects over the next 5 years. There is project-related debt issuance that has been incorporated into the rate assumptions. The effect of this rate adjustment on the average household will be an approximate $2.98 increase. In an effort to minimize the burden to ratepayers, the city is working to prioritize the greatest system deficiencies and defer other lower priority projects to future years. This coming year, the city will continue to address a nearly $28 million sewer main upsizing project located in a basin that is currently over capacity. The design portion of the project is complete as of the end of fiscal year 2026 and was funded with a CDBG grant. It was a federal grant. Construction estimate is $25 million beginning in fiscal year 2027 with completion in fiscal year 2028. Construction will be financed by a DEQ Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund loan and using sewer system development charges. The storm fund to meet the needs of the city's stormwater program, rates will need to be adjusted for fiscal year 2027. The proposed budget includes a 4.79% rate adjustment for fiscal year 2027. The city's updated storm master plan identified both capital projects and maintenance needs necessary to adequately operate the system. The effect of the rate adjustment on the average household will be 80% increase. There are two internal service funds. Public Works Operations Fund provides operations support for the street and utility funds, facilities maintenance services for the city facilities, and supports the engineering department. The equipment fund is used as a mechanism for Public Works to save for future purchases of large equipment. The water, sewer, storm, and street funds contribute to this fund. Staff have performed professionally, creatively, and collaboratively in preparing this budget, and we thank them for their hard work. We also want to thank the City Council and the Budget Committee for their time and hard work ahead in reviewing this budget to ensure the priorities set forth in fiscal year 2027 reflect the objectives and priorities of the community. Respectfully, John Walsh, City Administrator, and Gloria Butch, Finance Director and Budget Officer. So we'll get into the next.
So I'd like to talk about budget assumptions.
Front page,
That,
this front page of the budget.
yes, it's from the forecast. Yes.
The page in our agenda, in our syllabus.
What? Good, yeah.
And it's 40 different forecasts. About total resource.
Did you pick up that on? Yeah. Greetings.
Good on one.
Really? Okay, I'm not finding it in the document, but you will have, we'll give you copies of the slides at the end of the meeting. So this is very detailed and I know it's hard to see. Basically, the challenges, the proposed budget relies on the passing of $24 fee. Even with the fee, we will still do planned layoffs and one furlough day every other week or a 4-hour reduction every week for all general fund employees except parks, sworn patrol officers, sergeants, and the police chief. For fiscal year 2027, the general fund reserve is 10%. According to the forecast, we reached 20% reserve in fiscal year 2023. My notes fell. 20. It's, yeah.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
I think it is 30.
2030, yes, 2030. Thank you.
I've got it at page 53 of 47. Laura, do you want to just check? It's like the same.
Yeah.
No, that's not
It
it.
doesn't have the future projection you.
With page 20,
Hmm.
what do you think?
I don't
That's
have a
not page
page, no, I don't have a page.
I'm funny.
It's in the slides. You'll have a copy of the slides.
53, there's.
Yeah.
So in,
53, page 53. Continue.
And that doesn't cover everything that she's showing.
Yeah, it's missing the additional outlook.
We can get a copy of that.
yes. So, according to the forecast, we reached 20% reserve in fiscal year 2030. This also relies on no COLAs again for fiscal year 2027. The St. Helens Police Association contract negotiations are still ongoing. Dependent on the economy and this rate of future development, we may begin to reduce furloughs by fiscal year 2031. And by 2032, we can begin to restore services that have been reduced. Next slide. Our assumptions are successful passage of the $24 fee. It is important to note that contract negotiations are ongoing with the police association. There is the potential of negative impact to our current year as well as fiscal 2027. There's also. It also depends on no additional unanticipated expenditures. And the forecast assumes a 3% increases in personnel costs and 1% increases in materials and services. The forecasts. All revenue assumes 1% growth in building and development. Next slide. So this depicts the revenue that would be expected over the next 10 years with a $24 fee. Next slide. So the $24 fee is not successful. The alternate proposed budget pulls out the police department out of the general fund, and we make a new fund called the Police Services Fund. It will be its own self-funded, self-balancing fund. And what we do here is after the transfer from general fund, the Police Services Fund is in a deficit and will need adjustment. So go to the next slide. So this will be the new fund. And again, you'll have copies of the slides, so you'll be able to see them better. The general fund, after balancing the general fund and a 20% reserve, the general leftover revenue would be $3.58 million that would go to the Police Services Fund. They're still in a deficit. So for we are assuming that we'll go to the voters in November for a police service fee that will be fully accounted for in this fund. The proposed fee is $49.50. It will only, if it passes, we would only collect half a year because we wouldn't start collecting till after it passes. So we'd only have 6 months of the fiscal year. So for fiscal year 2027, we would still need to balance this fund because it's still in deficit based on that fee. After that, the fund would, each consecutive year, it would balance and support.
If that passed and we're able to utilize this fund for the police, would we be able to see an earlier date for those furloughs and programs to return in 2031?
Yes, if all goes well, yes.
We're allowed to ask questions.
Yeah, let's note our questions and ask him, we're gonna have a roundtable after she does her assumptions.
What do you want to do next time? The fee needed to support this police services according to council and community priorities begins at $49.50 for fiscal year 2027, with the assumption of 1% growth, 3% cost increases, and a maximum 3% annual adjustment. For fiscal year 2027, because if the fee is passed by the voters, it will only be 6 months collection for the first fiscal year. Therefore, there is still adjustment needed to balance the fund for fiscal year 2027. So that is something that we'll discuss and talk about. That's all I have.
Okay, and now let's open up for committee discussion. You have a statement, I'd limit it to 5 minutes, please, but questions and answers in general.
Can we do a break?
You'll wait first?
Yeah.
Okay,
And I did bring a PowerPoint, and so, or I can plug in here if I can display from here. I have have some slides that show.
that would be part of your 5 minute.
Yes.
Okay.
So one of two ways we could do it. So
Let's do a break.
Have to break.
I just want to bring it up before we did so.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do a break here. 7 minutes. Going again?
Farms and all that stuff.
We're recording now? Okay, great. And we are recording. Let's continue. Discussion. Steve Toskey's got a.
Go for it.
We're live again. We're live again, just so you guys are on camera.
So we'll do a roundtable discussion. Everybody should have 5 minutes if they wanted to have comments. Yeah, we'll start with Steve.
Jamie has it up. I just emailed it to her, so.
Not come through yet.
Okay, why don't we start, any comments from? I'd love to have comments from the city council. On the budget message. And assumptions.
I was gonna say, we started Counselor Sundin. We'll go in order.
I don't know, I guess my big question, the police services fund, is that something that is being done in other places, or how does that, can you explain a little bit more about how that works?
Yes, it is being done. It's becoming more popular just because the police services, they are a burden on the general fund, on general revenues. They require the most funding. And it's generally been said by communities, our community included, that it's confusing when we go out for a general services fee because there's not, there's a mistrust of a general services fee being utilized in the way that the community has voted for it to be used, such as for the library specifically, or the parks specifically, or police specifically. And generally, in that scenario, we don't receive the trust of the community for a general services fee. So by taking the department, the police department out and making its own special revenue fund and asking the voters for just a police services fee for that service, that specific service, it goes into that fund, it's accounted for there, it's utilized there, it's not mixed up with general revenues.
And police, library, and municipal court do not get GFS fees,
Right.
but there's no revenue coming in.
Right.
So I have to be able to hear.
Yeah, speak up a little bit.
I was saying, also adding on to that, when you were talking about the expenditures, the library, police, and municipal court do not get GFS fees. There's very limited income, so they're just expenses, all three of those.
Right.
That's the big question I had right now.
Great.
Could you speak up a little bit, please?
Sorry.
We off break. Yes.
Yeah, we're off break. Thank you for letting us know. Do you need us to repeat anything? Or you guys did you hear what we were talking about back there? Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from counselors?
So the police fund, that will be removed and separate and its own fund by, when do we know that's gonna?
The police department is moved to its own fund, a police services fund.
Right.
And it's no longer will live in the general fund.
And when will that happen?
Potential right now.
That's a potential if the $24 fee fails at the ballot.
Gotcha.
And we're doing this because a previous fee was called a water fee or whatever, but it was used for other parts of the city, and that kind of confused the public.
Go ahead, Florian.
Okay.
So the proposed fee that's on the ballot currently is for a general services fee. Okay, and we're limited on how much we can talk about that as, you know, staff and in council and meetings.
Council comment.
Okay,
What's our limiting factor on
Talk
that?
about it all we want here.
but
Staff can't.
So- so it's not a water fee. So, and it's not a tax. Okay, so we need to get that clarified. It's not a water tax, it's not a water fee. It just the bill, your utility bill is just the vessel for which we
Okay.
bill it.
A tax, Lou.
Well, no, I think that, yeah,
Bill.
I think that was the confusion was on our utility bill. And I think a lot of people thought, well, this is for utilities. Why are we putting it to other places of the city? But it's our medium.
Just receive a different bill from the city of St. Helens asking them to pay this fee or requiring them to pay the fee, and it could be separated from the water.
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
It's just more administrative function to do that.
Great.
Clarifying question, the public, the potential for doing this public safety or police fund separated. So the way that the revenue would be collected for that would be by the taxpayers. So it would be reliant on them passing this.
Like a levy.
It's not, no, it's not a tax levy.
But she
It's
said
not
like a
tax
levy.
levy.
It'd be a fee, but not like a levy.
But it would be
It's a
reliant on
fee,
voters
it's
to
not-
pass it.
yes.
To keep the full
That's
service.
because of the ordinance the council passed that any new fees would go to the voters.
I just want to be clear about that, because it's important that people understand that that would be something that we would see reoccurring, kind of like the jail levy, where if we're asking for it to continue to be funded.
You could, yeah.
Gloria, can you talk about, can you also talk about the fact, the difference between why fees are preferable because we get 100% of that dollar versus when we do a bond or a levy that we have compression and we don't get 100%, that's why that's a good tool to have in our toolbox?
So the mayor's question is why we try for a fee, to implement a fee rather than going for a tax levy to our property tax payers. The difference is in a fee that uses general services, library, recreation, police, all of those things. The greater number of those services come from people that don't pay property taxes. So we spread the burden of providing those services to everyone, every resident, or every residential unit, rather than just the taxpayers. So even an apartment pays for that service, not just the property owner of the property. And then we have a huge property of apartments that do not pay taxes. We do not get any property taxes from that development. So, and they are a big user of our police services. So by using a fee, then we are able to bill each unit of that apartment complex.
Explain which apartment complex it is.
Broadleaf.
Broadleaf,
It's a federally funded program, which is why we can't collect taxes from them.
and how many units is that?
230
230 units?
approximately.
Okay, so 230 residents would get the fee where they would not before.
Correct.
Would this get rid of the idea of the nuisance fee,
The what?
the nuisance fee?
No, I don't think so.
Wait a
It's up to
second.
council.
I'd like answers to come from staff.
No. No, it wouldn't.
Council has to vote in on that.
Yeah.
Nuisance fee.
How long is Broadleaf exempt? Forever?
Forever.
It's a federal program.
Yes, forever.
How many of those do we have in the community?
Yeah, there's more than just broadband.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I don't know the number.
are you talking about rental units or are you talking about subsidized that don't pay taxes?
Those are subsidized housing programs. We have
Yes.
several in the city of St. Helens,
Several?
besides broadband, yes. I
Yes.
would say probably at least 5.
Do we know approximately how many units that would entail?
I don't.
Ballpark figures probably 500.
500 units would not pay without this fee.
Do not currently pay for the services.
Okay,
Is that calculated into your charge of the fee you're proposing?
Yes, that's done in the assumptions.
I don't think the public is aware of what we just said. 500 units are not paying the fee because they don't own the property and it's federally subsidized. Okay.
They aren't paying,
They don't pay this for the services
Right.
because they're not paying property taxes.
Correct.
they are paying, are there 200 water meters in there? Or
No,
are they?
no, they're charged by unit,
EDU.
EDUs. Equivalent dwelling units, which is per apartment.
Okay, so we do get $10 a month right now from
Right.
234.
Right.
Maybe up to 500 apartments.
Well, everybody who has a water meter is supposed to pay. So, but it sounds like we've actually, I don't know if there's a
For,
water.
for the fee, it doesn't depend on a water meter. It has nothing to do with water services, sewer services, any of utility services. It's dependent on their living units.
Okay.
Okay.
So PowerPoint ready?
Any other counselor comments or questions?
I do have like one comment. First of all, and I'm
I
gonna,
have to speak.
sorry, I do have one comment and I actually have many here, but I'm going to probably wait till the next meeting to dive into them. But I just want to remind us all that like the part that stood out to the budget to me is the one-time recurring revenue. We are currently in this state right now for the deficiency for our general fund because we have constantly band-aided our general fund by one-time revenues. That's timber, that's one-time infusion with properties. Instead of using those assets for community development that could actually generate revenue, we have actually used it to just supplement and infuse our general fund. And at this point, there is no more money to actually bring into the general fund. And we go back and look at the history of the meeting, it's been warned over and over again. And now we're at the point where there are no more one-time revenues, nor do I believe the council at this point would choose to use any if they were there, because it's a habitual issue that we have perpetrated, that we are in this situation that we find ourselves today.
Basically kick the can down the road.
We absolutely
year.
did.
Now the can's at the door.
The can is here. So,
I love them.
yeah. And so
Is this the time to ask about the waterfront improvement? What's the status of that?
I think we should do that in urban renewal. And aren't we the urban renewal committee?
Yes, and that we'll have the urban renewal meeting on the 28th.
Okay,
That's all.
any other comments?
Are you asking for questions now?
Yeah, Steve, so Steve Toskey has a little,
I have 5 minutes, but I have some questions for Gloria first.
okay,
So so my understanding is that what you presented about the separate fund,
Mhm.
that's not in the proposed budget. Am I correct?
It's an alternate proposed budget. It's not the proposed budget at this time. We'll wait until after the election to know whether we're going to use the alternate proposed
Okay,
budget.
So right now, we're in a process that the budget officer has been elected. You've put a proposed budget out. This is the proposed budget we're working on.
Mhm.
Okay, so this alternate plan isn't something we even have to talk about at all
Not at the moment.
or ever. Because what we could decide is we could just, at page whatever it is that you have the 1.8 million in revenues, we could just cross that right off and then just say, we're gonna use this budget and we're gonna make decisions based upon this budget. We have the power to do that.
That would be a discussion of the committee whether they want to do that or not.
That's correct. So so procedurally, I don't know what this other fund is or how it even be funded, because I have no idea. We're gonna break the police off into a separate place. How are we gonna fund them? I mean, I looked up on the board and I saw that have, and this is a staff suggestion, thank you, and I understand this is a staff suggestion. But there's a number of revenue sources, I have no idea where those are gonna come from. Or how they're gonna impact the other funds.
Right, so it won't impact the other funds. So when you receive a copy of the slides, you'll be able to look at those closer and see how that's developed.
Okay, so I do think that we should we should continue to concentrate on the proposed budget, which is the official legal document of the city of St. Helens that is under consideration for us in deciding what we do and how we do it. And I do think it's important that we should have some very sobering discussions about the massive amount of money that we've short and what is going to happen to our services in the event that this levy or water bill doesn't pass. Because, people are trying to figure out what to do about that right now. And the idea that we're going to kick the can down the road into November to try and get a $49 fee. I think people understand that this is money that's the general fund. They understand that there may be cuts if this thing doesn't pass. I think we should probably be discussing what exactly and what are our priorities. And I think that for the city council, this is ultimately going to come down to you guys. I am going to advocate as a citizen that everybody in this town struggles with a budget, and we need to struggle. We need to balance the budget. And there were some city council meetings that were earlier said about when are we going to talk about the management of money? This may not be the meeting. It may be the next meeting. There are definitely things that we need to look at, whether there's expenditures that could be brought into tow. But we cannot have a town with no library or limited library. It's too important of an asset to this town.
Steve, give us your slide,
38,000 visitors in 2020.
just your slide presentation. We'll probably talk about that at our next meeting.
Okay, so what we've got, what we've been doing is we've been taking from the street and storms fund about 6 million a year. For the last 3 years, 18 million has been shifted over. But then I wanted to talk about.
Start your timer.
I'm a big fan. I'm not here to knock the police, and it'd be great to be able to keep a huge police force. Problem is, we just don't have the money. And so this is the performance measures of the 2020 budget where we had 16 officers sworn. Our population was 13,200, 13,005. And the dispatch calls are 17,000. And I can send these out and maybe they should be part of it. But the point is we were handling 16,000 police calls according to our own budget measures with 16 sworn officers. We're now up to how many sworn officers do we have?
19.
19. Okay, and then there's detective and a sergeant and.
Budgeted, we don't have 19 on
Okay, so
duty.
next slide. This was our population growth.
Wait a minute. How many do we have, Gloria?
Wait, stop my timer.
That's okay.
Oh.
We'll just,
Seconds. We have budgeted 19. How many actually are there?
I mean,
who's got the number?
I broke it down. So we have actual 12 patrol. We have 1 sergeant or 4 sergeants. We have 1 detective and we have a lieutenant and a police chief.
15.
Is that the number, Gloria? I know.
I can
Go
give you their
ahead with
names and
your-
their hire dates too.
So,
Go ahead.
in 2022, the budget committee was using, and this is directly from the 2022 budget, that we were going to grow to 20,000 people by 2040. And we're still below 15,000. So you see that 2020 number at the bottom? That number kept going up when really our numbers are flat. We have not grown. And what's happened is in the last 10 years, our population has grown 7.7%. And the police budget has grown 134%. So we've barely grown at all in population, yet we budgeted for this massive growth that never happened. Let's go next. So this just shows the total cost from fiscal year 2017 when we had 17 officers to now. 143% in increased police department costs, wages and overtime 126%. PERS is up 198%, health benefits 102%, materials and services 191%. So next. And then you can see what's happened is the general fund balance is continuing to go down. So as we increase the police spending, general fund is going down to where now we're at 93,000 in our fund balance. That's what we're left over at the end of the year. Next. This is just some discussions about police overtime and how many hundreds of hours are being billed. The officers' names have been taken away because it really doesn't make a difference. The fact that the overtime is there and they're working it is the point of the discussion is how much there is, and it's well over budget. Next. And if we do the pay boost from overtime, you can see the pay boost from overtime next. And here's our top 5 officer salaries, 189, 187, 176. The top tier of pay for patrol officers, 100,000 a year. We're paying almost $200,000 a year, plus PERS of $1 million a year for the police. Okay, next. Here is the cost of police per resident and how it's increased over time. You can see how the officers are much per resident, things are costing. Next. Then this is a graph that shows the divergence in the general fund. So the green line is our population. The red line is the police expenses, and the black line is the general fund. So you can see that our green line is flat. Police expenses go up and the general fund goes down. This is data that's from our own actual audited data. This is our real data and from our own, these are from our documents. Next. So this is just the same thing, that we are still handling a lot of calls even with less officers. Next. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, look, I would like to keep them all. But the fact of the matter is that we have to decide what our priorities are. And I think that we haven't grown as much as we thought we would. That's the bottom line here. And so how do we manage our expenses? So I think we should be going, down these line items and saying, let's assume today that levy or whatever bill is not going to pass. It's not, probably. And so what are we going to do? I think our people need to know. I mean, are we going to cut 2 million from the police? Are we going to close the library? Are we going what's going to happen? Because right now, people in this room are trying to decide, should I check yes or should I check no? And they're listening to us. A lot of people are concerned about management. They want to hear from us about what are we going to do about this? How are we going to bring these expenses under control? And they're going to listen to our discussions. They're going to make their decision. But I think our decision is this: we have 3 meetings. There's today, there's the next meeting, and then we have the third one, right?
3 weeks in a row.
Right. And so the third one
We
is,
skip 1 week.
and the third one is, do we adopt or not? And I don't think that we should be thinking a mystery budget that we haven't even looked at. This is the budget. We should today start getting our pencils out, because this is reality. Cross that 1.7 million right off the general fund revenue, because we don't have it and we're probably not going to get it. What are we going to do?
One of the other perspectives that I would like to bring up as well is for another point for us to look at when we're evaluating, because I think we all agree, like, the services we have here are valuable for livability and other things. Can you hear me back there? All right, thank you. Thank you, Jessica. We have so many things here between the library, rec, police, all of them play a function in livability that we have here. But I also think we need to be cognizant of, like, citizens all the time are like, where's the taxpayer waste? Where are we wasting money? Where are we pissing money away, right? And I want to offer this perspective to the budget committee as our consideration. And it doesn't matter to me if we're talking about police or if it's public work or if it was library. Put anybody in you want, right? But the reality is I went through all of our sworn officers that we have. I got all of their hire dates. All of the ones that we put through Academy, which are 640 hours, they have FTAB on top of it that are 28 weeks, right? And then took the lowest tenure we had for 2003. When we hire an officer, that is money that taxpayers are paying. To get an officer fully loaded is about $130,000 approximately. And we have just alone in our department that we have sitting here that I would say is an asset, right? We have invested taxpayer funds for it. We're sitting at approximately at a low base number for argument's sake at $111,000 just for the startup of the officers for our department and training, including FTAP, everything is $2,109,000 approximately for the officers we have in place. That's roughly 7,680 hours for academy that we paid for all expenses to go through. And I did go through whether they were laterals or we actually paid for academy. And then the FTAP that they all have to have them when they come here, whether they are from here or not. It's an expenses that the taxpayers have had to pay. That's not including the additional pay for the officers to train them. That alone, you're sitting at a department for just training at 1,312,000 on a very low side. I took the low side of the lowest tenure employee. So when we're talking about just ixnaying people, I want us to be cognizant of also that is money. If we want to look at it in $1 million or whatever it is, that's like saying we have a building, let's just give it to Scappoose. Like that is an asset that we have that taxpayers have invested money into. And I just think that that's an important piece to bring to this table as well. Because another municipality is going to take them and laugh all the way to the bank because they're not going to have to train them. And
I agree with that in that, yeah, we have made significant investments in officers and it's a shame to lose that investment. But the reality is we don't need them all. We're getting along just
that's who.
with less. We were getting along fine with less and we continue to get along fine with less. And the bottom line is this: we cannot afford them. The library, really what we probably should be talking about is what is going to be not on the chopping block. And there's, and I think the political people have to make some hard decisions, but the library began with a $1 million gift from a citizen for the Columbia Learning Center. And our entire community pitched in and built that building. And there it's been ever since. We have an entire community. We are a very safe community, And honestly, to tell you the truth, so we leave the library alone. Maybe we shave just a bit off of it, not a lot, but we have to get our pencils out. But it's really the gorilla in the room, I'm sorry to say, and it's the only place that we have to cut, is the police department. And that's going to be up to the chief to sit. There are many methods that the chief could use to manage his department better, to keep people. Number one, he may decide, I'm going to keep all the new people because they're all trained. And I only got this much budget. So therefore, I don't know how he's going to manage it. I do know that there's a lot of overtime. Go back through those figures.
Speaking of which, you kept talking about overtime respectively.
I don't want to be interrupted.
I don't really care what you want, actually,
Well,
but
Lou, I don't think
but-
we should, I don't think.
come out and call police piggy. I think we know on that. Purple attacks.
Let's leave the,
But here's the
Oh,
deal.
wait a second, Lou. First of all, I should not be interrupted. Secondly, the mayor needs to be very careful because there were reasons that I said that. And if you want me to get into it, leave me.
no,
Yeah.
we are,
Understanding.
There are other people at this table as well, you guys.
yeah, we had your 5 minutes are up, Steve.
Discussion though. We're discussing.
Let some.
I shouldn't be interrupted. That's the point. Nobody should be interrupted at this table, especially by the mayor, somebody with a conflict of interest. That is an advocate. You need to understand, there's only one person sitting at this table that has a conflict of interest.
Respectably, I disagree. The litigation that has been put on the city, and we can get into the professional service fees about how much you've cost the city, but I don't think we want to do that either. But
Okay, it's your lies and
Come on,
your
let's keep this to the,
documents.
let's keep this to
There
the
you go.
question at hand.
Wow. Thank you, Mayor. Holy mackerel. Okay, I really want to keep this online with the budget list. I really do.
Been quick,
I do.
brief, and we'll have a good conversation about it, but present.
I don't want to be interrupted.
information.
I don't want to be interrupted. Especially by somebody.
Present.
Can you
factual-
please just keep order at the meeting? That's all we're here to discuss is
I
money.
want both of you to quiet down right now. Any other comments from the other parts of the table here?
Jeremy, I'd love to hear from you.
It'd be
If
great.
you wouldn't mind sharing your
Yeah, so a few things come to mind, taking in all these comments. One is that there's inflationary pressure across the expenses of the budget. And so some of those slides are quite interesting. I think it's difficult to understand what the right level the police department needs to be at without some sort of statistics to ground us in.
Speak up a little, please.
It's hard to know what level the department needs to be at without more statistics and something to say it's enough to have less police, but I'm open to the argument. I think inflation's a problem. I think revenue sources are a problem. I don't disagree that you may just have to cut in the police budget. It's even passed. I think you're essentially right in saying there's nothing left to cut. I mean, as you read through the different sections of this budget and see the cuts that have already been taken, I don't know where to take the cuts. And it's a little bit heartbreaking to see the library taking the cuts as well. So with that, I want to make sure that we get to a place where there's better recurring revenue to cover whatever expenses we end at. But I do agree, there's gonna be some tough decisions here.
I don't, coming back to that statement is, I don't see recurring revenue happening. We're gonna probably get, how much are we gonna get from Cascades or what, Arcadia, right? The new.
I'm actually curious about that one. too.
What revenues may be coming in from that?
And when does it start?
That too.
And that was my question about the riverfront, but
So we're talking about, expected revenues. That's a very good question.
So your instructions for the next meeting is submit your questions to me by Monday morning, and we will bring back the Q&A to the committee next Thursday. So I'm not going to answer any of these questions off the cuff
Come on,
because
Gloria,
I don't
just
have
hold
the
on.
answers, and I'm not going to.
No, that's.
I'm not
okay.
going to pull answers out of my hat because
Thank you.
don't interrupt,
You know?
Gloria.
Thank you. You're right.
One
so
other,
that's the instructions for next week.
one other just general comment, there's a lot of projects in flight for the city, just full stop. There's a lot of borrowing, a lot of capital investments going on. It's not exactly in the numbers, but I am a little concerned about projections going forward and whether we can sustain the debt load. Have the interest rates been locked in, some of those sorts of details.
Talk about that. I met with a developer today on the waterfront to talk to you, Lou. And they are very aggressive and want to go ahead at a pretty good pace. And so I think the citizens have been bearing the burden of what you're talking about. And that's one reason we're here today with all these additional costs to get the waterfront going, all the infrastructure and that sort of thing, which we normally wouldn't do if we didn't have that big project. And so it was very positive day with this developer. As things develop, it does take years, but we're ready to go with them. With, of course, it has to be negotiated. But there again, to the police department, we're gonna need that staff on when all these come online and all the rest of the services. So I think we've done it to ourselves a little bit. And we're at that one point where it's really hard because we've been trying to build for the future and it is coming, but development takes time. They're looking at getting going on some housing units right away, which means, a couple of years maybe. And then a build out over, depending on economy, 12 years or something, but there's hundreds of units there that would add to the city, which will take services and have taxes generated from all that. And all that property would be generating taxes. And so there's light at the end of the tunnel, but boy, this is tough times.
Jeremy, I don't disagree with you, and I actually don't disagree with Steve on the fact that there's gonna have to be hard cuts. There is, if it doesn't pass, there is money that is not going to be there, and it's gonna have to be cut regardless, and we're gonna have to make the tough decision. That's just the reality of it, right? But I come back to, my issue is misinformation. I have an issue with that, right? And so there's a lot of things that play in different dynamics to look at, but the reality is this committee is going to have to make the cuts. And that's why there's been conversations about how do you have a pattern interrupt? I mean, I've talked to citizens about the general service fee, right? And I describe it as the everything bagel. It's like, where is this money coming from? There's a distrust to government right now of where the money, it's like, we have cried wolf, I would say, so many times over the year, there's no money, and all of a sudden we've infused the general fund, right? And then there's no more money to infuse it. So we're stuck here. But there is gonna have to be the hard decisions, the hard cuts, but having a pattern interrupt of how we conduct business. And, that's why the conversations on pulling the police out of the general fund seemed like a very just idea to segregate them. And then the citizens will be able to choose, if it doesn't pass, that's important. It's got to mirror.
To that point, I think it's very compelling when it's specifically for the police, so I won't be surprised if we end up in November with that on the ballot. And
So
I think, while we focus on this budget, there is sort of this strategy of, well, we may end up in a different place by the end of the month.
Right.
And then we'll need to seriously think about that, and that may be the way forward.
And every year it's a general fund knife fight. It is. And it's like when you sit up here in or your council, like there's value to the library, there's value to Parks and Rec. There's many different, elements in the general fund, including the police. All of them are very important. We have livability issues, right? When you look at the police, and we do, I have sat and done exhaustive research on calls for service and contrast comparisons to other every single actual city in actually in Oregon, because I wanted to have that information. But we also look at the police. It's probably reduced calls because we have more, officers combating crime. I get calls as a mayor of people peeing and defecating and, all these problems and code enforcement. That's an issue. But then we also, regardless of what people think or we do have child abuse issues in this city, and it's grotesque. It is actually true. But we also look at the library. The library, every hour, a lot of those kids are there. They're not in bad places. Same thing with Parks and Rec. So they all come together harmoniously to help with the livability of this city. So it's hard, and it's, as council, it ends up in this, it feels like a knife fight every general fund, or is how it feels like. And it's how do you differentiate between all of them, right? And that's where it comes into. Hard decisions are going to have to be made, but we've invested money. We still want, important aspects like the library and rec.
So on the financials, there have been several analyses that my brother ran by hands. And that's why it actually captures some of these graphs. So the spending completely outpaces it. So I have 4 of these things that I can send out, that I sent to Gloria. I can send them out to everybody. Second thing is this, regarding future revenues. Last year, and that'll be one of my questions for Gloria, is that I had asked a hypothetical talking about urban renewal. And if we get development in our urban renewal, we get a bigger share of the tax than they would. And so we have this developer that is going to come in. And I think the number I picked last year was $45 million. So let's just assume we have a building worth 45 million. That was the number that I picked, and I had an idea. But Gloria came back and said, okay, at the current tax rate, this would be how much we would get in urban. So like tomorrow, if we were to wave our magic wand and have 145 million, how much extra revenue would we get? And so I would ask, probably going to ask the same kind of question now, so that we can see, okay, if these buildings do come online in 2 years and they produce, I don't know how many million, and 100 million, let's just say, which is a huge number in taxable property value, what, 45 million, 50 million, what does that get
2
us?
cents per thousand. effectively? Is that where we're at?
No, we get way more than that in urban renewal.
Oh,
Right now, we're 91 per thousand, and this is my understanding, is that because we're in urban renewal, and John could explain this probably better, Gloria, that as it's urban renewal, we aren't sharing at the same tax rate as we are the rest of the property. But there's a limited time that we can capitalize on. So if we do get these buildings built, there will be the opportunity for revenues under urban renewal. And John would probably, anyway, I could ask Gloria the questions and just do a hypothetical, assuming $10 million in property value. And then we have SDCs that we would get on top of that.
the bigger issue is the locked in rate. So I'm interested in that higher rate, even though it's time limited. But
It is an
like many of those graphs, if you were to insert the tax base, I mean, just looking over the last 4 or 5 years here, it's essentially flat.
right.
And if you go back 20, it may look fairly flat, certainly won't keep up with the expenses.
That's the issue. And so the issue is,
But it's capped at 3% and inflation's certainly been above that. So this leads us to the place where we've got to find other sources. Meanwhile, other cities, neighboring cities, I think there was a great exhibit here. We might have been the bottom or second to the bottom. It brought out other cities like, I want to say Clatskanie may have been up towards the top, even my hometown of Albany. When they were locked in the late 90s at the maximum taxing rate, St. Helens just happened to be in a really abysmal position, probably
Yes.
because of all of the industrial revenue. So
Exactly.
the burden wasn't on the taxpayers. And so now we're in this position where it's true, we need to put more burden on the citizens. Now we want to do that
well, they
efficiently, effectively,
don't want to.
wastefully.
And that's the point. And so when you see the comments about this and you got a lot of people who says, I can't afford it. And then you have a lot of people who say, I can't afford it, but I don't like to see my money wasted. And so I think that budget reduction, number one, I think budget reduction of the police is in order. So the question is, how much is it gonna be? And that's really a discussion we need to have. And then it's gonna be up to the chief to manage it.
You brought up a really good point about needing the staffing study, right? Because without a staffing study, what numbers are we looking at? Do we know if we have enough? Do we not know if we have enough? We haven't had a staffing study done in.
We had a staffing study done in 2011, published in 2012 that said that we needed 27 officers. And Terry Moss in 2016 wrote a letter to council. And at that time, I believe I recall he provided different resources that said that we needed 26 at that time. And at that time, we had a population that he noted at 13,000. So there has been a staffing study done. The problem that I see is that we haven't done any strategic planning either, right? So because it takes 14 months, that it feels like there was a huge gap of not like trying to build up that strategic plan. You got the staffing study and then it just fell short. Like there was no plan. How are you going to add a half a FTE or a FTE over the period of time? And it's been this, OODA loop.
That it takes to hire and train.
14
officers to
months.
Get them on the road.
Right.
In addition to officers.
Retiring, there was the overlap of retirements. And that's just, it's been like a lack of strategic planning and honestly, it's a not reoccurring revenues, right?
Well, there have been other issues that an investigation about.
Well, those are the underlining issues and I believe a staffing study should be done.
Well, until then, we had 1.25 on the slide I showed you, 1.25 per thousand. And when we had the investigation, we were at 1.65 per thousand, according to the person that made the report in February of 2005, and that report is available. That put us at like one of the top in the state. So in other words, we already have more officers per thousand than almost any other city in Oregon.
Can you-
At 1.65.
Are you
That's
referring
not-
to a staffing study?
Referring to the Jim Van
It's
report
not
that we paid $130,000 for.
It's to make that really clear. That was not a staffing study. That was a report.
It was a
It was not
report that
cited.
we paid for, that he
I just wanna make sure that's
stated,
clear for the
right,
record.
that we paid for.
staffing-
That's correct, but we had 1.25 per thousand from 2012 until at least 2018. Our city was completely safe during that period of time. And it's been completely safe since that period of time, and it's completely safe now. And so the idea that we need 1.7, 2 officers per thousand. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is a very safe city. It is. And we went for years at 1.25, for years, and those were worse economic times than they are now. We're now at 1.65.
So
And so
I please request something? Here's where I'm having trouble. I don't have an issue talking about like cutting things or anything like that. What I'm having a trouble is that Gloria has not reviewed information. And I know for myself, doing copious amounts of research, what is bothering me currently is the information that is being presented has not been vetted by Gloria. Information that's being presented, that's being out to the public is from all accounts inaccurate. And it feels like that's a bit deceiving, maybe not intentional, but it feels like things should be going through Gloria to ensure that they're accurate before they are like, sent out to other council members, because for one, Gloria had already identified some errors in some of the information that's done by AI or the other stuff. So I think that it's important to produce whatever the information is. Let's make sure that it's factual and that it's accurate and that we're giving the precise information to the voters, and that the budget committee is determining that on citable things. That's all I'm asking, is because I'm listening to things that they're not by my research accurate, nor were they citable. So whatever, let's just have the honest conversations, but let's
have the honest conversation.
factual.
Those numbers, 1.25, were from our official government documents, from our official budgets that we adopted. They were the official documents of the city of St. Helens, reviewed, vetted, and approved by the budget committee, that are published on the city's website and have remained published year in and year out. Those are the documents I'm relying upon, our own documents. Our documents that say from 2012 onwards, we had 1.25. Those are the ones I'm relying upon. You look them up, they're in there. Those are the ones I copied and pasted directly from here. So the implication that anything that I have done has been other than 100% accurate is incorrect.
When you're talking about respectively, when you're talking about data, like data points, like when you're saying that we have like that, highest FTEs per patrol per ratio of 1,000 citizens, you're not quoting like the FBI statistics. You're not quoting the accurate information. And that's what I just think is important. That all I'm asking is, if we're going to produce committee, and I think you could appreciate that, Steve, if we're going to produce information for this committee to consider, then I think that it needs to make sure that we're producing accurate information.
I'm going off, so.
All of it. I'm talking about the things that are speaking on.
$130,000 for a report. The person that wrote it, said 1.65.
It's an opinion piece that was not cited, Steve. And I'm just asking, I think you're an attorney. Can we agree to produce factual information for consideration? Gloria.
Question for Gloria. Can you get answers for factual questions? How many officers, what's the population compared today from 2017? Is that something that you can answer if you give them the specific questions?
Yeah. If you ask me those questions,
On how
and
many police you
we
need.
we can go through and answer those
Study
questions.
done. That's not how.
And regardless, Council President Shelton, regardless, okay, we get the data. We're still going to have to make cuts. We're going to still have to,
Absolutely,
but at least we
have
we're
a place
operating on,
where we know what the
yes, and
standard is.
factual information that has been validated through our budget director. That's all I'm saying. We're gonna have to.
If you go to buy a house, you're gonna get the house appraised. We just wanna see the appraisal.
Let's do it this way. Here's an idea, just a suggestion. We decide who's willing to cut what from the library. And we start with the library, which has an $860,000 budget. And we all go around this table. And we make sure that our voters here which of our city councilors are gonna cut this library? And cut the 38,000 visits, because I can tell you right now. I have an opinion and I haven't made up my mind yet, but I can tell you what my opinion about the value of our library is to our community. And I can tell you it would be an utter shame and a huge embarrassment for our community to lose such an asset, an unacceptable thing. An absolutely unacceptable thing. 38,000 visits. So this is a pittance, talking about a $6 million budget for the police. They want even more money, according to Gloria, this year than they had last year. They've overspent their budget. I just want to talk about the library. I'd say we vote, we're not going to cut the library. We're just going to start with what we're not going to cut. Or if I'm looking for ways to find solutions, because if we're not going to cut the library, then where do you cut? Next on the chopping block is Parks and Rec. What are we going to do with that? And I think we've got some people that are going to probably want to comment about how important the Parks and Rec program is. Are we a town that has a library and has a Park and Rec program, or are we just a town that has none of these things? We have to have a town that's livable. And so my thinking is, let's start with the library and go around the table and today's not the day necessarily. But I think we're gonna have to have that discussion. Who will cut the library? And if so, what's your vote? And who will cut the Parks Department? And if so, what's your vote? And if you're not, and Brandon, I say this, I want you to think about this, to all the counselors. Is your legacy gonna be, if somebody asks you later, what did you do when you were on the city council? And you're gonna say, well, I got rid of the library.
Let's move on. We don't need comments like that.
I do have a quick question for you, Gloria, on rec piece. That has traditionally been self-sustainable through grants, correct?
It has mostly been.
What's that?
What was the question?
Rec program.
So
Sorry, the rec
the
program.
question was, the rec program has been mostly sustained by grants and contract with the school. This is mostly true. However, the school funding and the school grants are on the line too. So
Yeah, it's like, it's
we can't
uncertainty.
depend on
It's
it.
an uncertainty.
I think the rec program is. It's like 300, 400,000.
There's so many people that I visited the after-school programs, and there are so many people that are counting on that rec program for financial, for after-school care. Like it will have a tremendous effect to the families that would have to pay for services afterwards while they're at work trying to earn incomes. It's a phenomenal program they have
So,
there.
and I think that this is a good way to think about it, because I think that we should sit down as we're going through this, and the mayor's bringing up a very good point. Are we going to cut the rec program? How many people use it? And so if the people hear from us in this budget committee, through our meetings, that, well, if this levy doesn't pass, this is what's going to happen to you name it. They may just decide to go out and vote for the water. They may hear this, or they may not, in which case, at least they know what's gonna happen before they vote. They have an idea, because we've got a group of people here. I'm sure that things are gonna be discussed. At some point, I think we should be going down and saying, yeah, what does it mean to not pass this thing? Because it's 1.8 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money per household. It's a lot of money. So maybe they'll say yes. I want to keep the rec program. I don't like the idea that the library may be cut or will be cut. I mean, I'm not, I'm one person in this room.
You hope that that's the way it's looked at, because the library alone, when you go in there, they have adults that are using it for resumes, taxes. I'm on the library board, right? So as a liaison, all of the students that are there, the maker space, all of that, that would be a huge hit to have that not there. I mean, it's a vital component to what we have for the community. And that, again, it comes back to, there is just a distrust from citizens that the money is going to be allocated to, the general fund where it needs to go. They think that there's money out there that it can be pulled from another fund. It can't. So Steve, we disagree on a lot of things, but I think we agree on the livability of the things that need to be here for our kids and for adults equally. You go into the maker space, it's been expanded. People are in there doing different projects that they can for skill sets. You have, I mean, I've done, you know, a couple speaking engagements in there, and the people that show up or the authors, it's like, it is what Suzanne, who is an amazing library director, says, it is the living room of our community, is really where it is. And you see kids in there, tutors in there. The hard thing is getting the message out to the voters that we are in dire straits on the general fund, and we do need money. I mean, it's not a pitch, but I mean, I could talk about elected officials, could talk about staff can.
Here's my thinking on this, and you know, even if we cut the library 100% and the rec program 100%, there's still not enough without cutting the police. And I'm serious about that. We're looking at about, I mean, Lori, what's the shortfall? 2.5 million, right?
We're
2
all,
million.
we're all aware of that, Steve. I think we're
Well,
all,
no, I think people need to hear it. I don't know who's aware of it. I mean, that's why we're having a discussion here. Is we're having a discussion that, in my opinion, this is a very serious meeting right now. And you know, we are really, when there's a big can big pile of cans, it's, you know, the library isn't enough to solve the problems, and the cops, the police are gonna need to be cut probably too. Because
there's not enough money.
There's not enough money at all.
Period.
And so how, if we keep the library and we keep the rec program, that means we're probably gonna be cutting a couple $1 million out of the police budget. If we keep the library and we keep the rec program, if we don't keep the rec, we cut back the library, we cut back the rec program, that still means the police budget will be cut back. Without the levy, and even with the levy, Gloria, what's still the shortfall?
You say the fee, not levy.
Oh, sorry, the fees, the bill, the
The fee. Yes,
fees.
I just want to be factual.
Yeah,
Fee.
you're right.
Thank you.
It's not a levy, it's a fee. It's a bill.
But isn't that why they have the plan of taking the police out of the general fund and letting the people vote on the police later? And then the budget's in pretty good shape right now.
no, and the outcome of this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Since
so
the people have spoken.
that's not the problem that's not the process we are in. So we are in a process that is a legal process that is defined by the state, but we have an official proposed budget, and this is it. Okay, we aren't in a process of trying to figure out what we're gonna do about that is not appropriate, in my opinion, at all, and I object to that kind of a discussion. I mean, we can talk about it, but we cannot be talking about, we can't have a proposed budget by the budget person and then talk about some mystery budget that got flashed up on the board that we are then gonna have to, you know, think about an election in November. Our job is to put together a balanced budget based upon
Nothing passing.
Well, I don't know if
Actually,
it's a mystery budget. It's
Committee
laid out.
can consider the alternate budget. It's absolutely on the table.
it is absolutely not.
It is on the
It is
table
not.
It's
because
It
at
is,
the budget committee level, the budget committee can make choices on those alternatives.
it has not been presented in the appropriate way. It's not within the
That's-
proposed budget.
That's not true.
Putting it up, I have no idea what
Can
we're.
we get a clarification on whether or not, I don't know, his chair, if you can help here, is that actually out of bounds or in bounds from?
I
what?
don't think that's a legal question.
Yeah, it seems like a
I did look it
legal
up.
question.
I did look it up. But,
Finance director is capable of answering that question.
I
I just want to know if
she actually represents the city. She has an opinion it's not any more valid than any of ours.
So what I can do is I can get an opinion from the Department of Revenue Division at the state.
Well, I'd like a legal opinion for the budget committee.
That would be the legal opinion.
I might be able to accept that
You've
because.
asked that as a specific question when you submit questions to Gloria.
Here's the issue. I know you chuckled to Councilor President Chilton, but the fact of the matter is this. This is a process. You cannot have some kind of mystery thing that if we don't do our job, that somehow occurs later.
I
We need-
respect that, Steve.
yes,
I
thank
respect your
you.
stance. I do.
I mean,
just-
I don't
I
know.
work with Gloria, and so I would trust that she would bring us factual information to make sure that we are doing things legally within our bounds.
Okay.
But if you don't, that is up to you. But I do trust Gloria, but I understand your perspective.
You know what, the problem is this, and I can tell you the consequence of not doing it right is you cannot collect your tax revenue. And so this is gonna be something that isn't this on our ballot? It is something we need to hear about. Public hearing for state shared revenue. Okay, I'm not going to agree to that because I do not agree that the processes that we're in. And I'm not gonna agree that that we should get any state shared revenue today. Reason is we cannot be proceeding forward with this mystery side budget that we know nothing about, that got flashed on a screen this proposed budget is a legal document that was presented to our people that they have a chance to comment upon and review. That's the process we're in. And so the consequence of not doing it right is you cannot collect your state revenues.
Your point's taken, and
Thank you.
I think we need to get a legal opinion on this. You talked about the Department of Revenue.
Yeah.
And we also have,
I don't want to kick the can down the road to this
Thank
mystery
you.
And,
I think we
$49
all
thing.
agree, Steve, that we want the factual information and an act. And I don't think anybody here is going to disagree. We want to do the right things and we want it to be the right process. Processes and procedures are important. So actually, thank you for bringing it up. And then if you can get the information, that would be.
We really need to make the tough decisions. I think that people need to understand that. So what I'm hearing is somehow, some way that I don't even want to discuss it. What I'd like to do is start discussing how do we balance this budget and with the money we have. And I think we need to get down to business on that. And that's what we need. That's our job today and now and next week and whatever.
well, I think we're going to hear from, we're going to hear from departments. I think next meeting,
They'll be available.
they'll be available.
Yeah, Steve.
I don't think we,
I asked John if we were gonna get department heads.
I think they're all going to be here the next meeting, right?
Yeah. That's the plan.
I mean, Suzanne's probably in the audience. She's always in the audience.
Does anyone feel other than, I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, I've looked at this for hours and hours and hours. Do I feel prepared to go take a sharp pencil and start crossing out line items and come up? No, I don't. And I don't know if anybody else is ready to do it. I say proceed, go ahead, tell me what you think. But I think what we really need to do is assume, my opinion is this, that we assume that this 1.8 million never shows up. And we all sit there and we say, okay, where do we make the cuts? And then we come back and we start talking about it next meeting with the department's heads here and hear what they have to say about it. Let people hear. When's our next meeting, Gloria?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
next Thursday.
So it's 14th, so the people can listen. They can ask questions, they can comment, and they've got 5 days to decide how they want to vote. I mean, that's my feeling about it. That's only me.
Are you talking about the May ballot measure?
Correct, May 19th is voting day. And
So as part of this discussion, you're kind of proposing, are you proposing something different than what's in the budget statement?
this is the official proposed budget.
No, reference to page 16.
We can change from anything we want and.
Well, I just want to point to this paragraph that Gloria read, and I thought this really,
What page are we at?
16. Third paragraph, okay, so it says that, it essentially talks about this alternative budget. But the point I want to make is that if the money is not available from, the fee that's going to the voter, then it describes how, essentially how the police budget will be collapsed, and then they would look for another source of funding. What's wrong with that?
Number one, number one, the budget we pass is effective June 30th. So it will have a result. And so what we're gonna do is basically move the chairs around It will have an effect. There's going to be, we can only go on the money we have now. And so the idea then is we're gonna basically, I guess, I have no idea what would be the effect of the other departments because I can't see it.
It doesn't say any effect. So that's kind of my point is if
Well,
you're
you
taking
tell
it
me,
all
let
out
me
of,
ask you this.
take it all out of the police is kind of what I'm hearing from you. And then I'm just looking at this and saying, well, that gets to the same endpoint effectively.
So here's.
Either the funding comes in by July 1st off the fee. And this proposed budget works, right? Or it doesn't. And then this sort of segregation of the fund occurs. And it moves forward. So it looks like a complete path to me.
Let me ask you this question. Let's assume we adopt this thing we haven't even seen, other than flashed on the board here. How much money does the library get next year under this budget?
If you want me to explain the number.
What's the number?
It's in the budget.
Yeah,
So it's in the budget, so it's 660,000.
it won't change.
It funds the library.
Yeah, I mean, here, let me get to the library.
Library and all the other departments remain the same that's in the proposed budget.
Yeah, it isolates it
Question.
to the police.
Why is this coming up that, why are we doing this thing? Because to me, it seems a pretty simple thing. Is it because the idea that people don't know what the heck they're doing when they vote? That we're gonna need a separate tax?
I actually think it's a good idea to segregate it regardless. Just because it does clarify where the funds are going, and when you ask for them, it's very clear.
Very cut and dry.
As a taxpayer, I always want to know where my money's
So
going.
let's just say this, so 200,000, it would come out of the library. No.
Where are you getting?
No.
Where are you getting?
No, this, are you talking about in this proposed budget, the official one?
How much would the library be?
We're being told it would be the same.
What's in the proposed budget.
Same
The same
It's the same.
as the proposal.
as the proposal.
Yes.
Right, and so what would it then, the library would be reduced 200,000 from last year?
That's what the budget is, yes.
That's not acceptable.
Well, so then,
That's a different.
we can get into that point.
Whole different point.
I'm happy to get into that because I'm not an axe for the
I
I
library.
think this is good though, Steve. No, this is honestly really good because here's the,
Because that really helped me
this is,
understand.
this is really good though,
Steve's
because
point of
yeah,
view. Yeah.
seriously, I mean, there's a lot of things I dislike, obviously, but this is really good because the confusion that's out there, that is literally what people have been feeling when they're looking at our budgets. I think this is actually an amazing conversation.
I'm not confused a bit, and here's the point. This is the legal document. And so here's the idea. Tell you what. Go through and decide. The idea is to take out this support fee. And to then, this is. Take out the support fee and then go through and decide what gets cut.
I don't
How
understand.
much gets transferred over? So the police get their 6 million, whatever, and everything gets transferred.
So it's like I told you, those slides will be given to you, so you can look at them, you can analyze it. The general fund doesn't change, except that it no longer is in support of the police department.
All right, so the police get it.
Shortfall ends up eventually with the police.
Yeah.
And that was to
Exactly.
protect the library and Parks and Rec and all of that.
It doesn't protect anything because we're still cutting their budget and we're just moving the police to another place and we're.
Those decisions have already been basically made
By whom?
by the council.
Okay, well, you know what? When? Because the fact of the matter is when did they decide to cut the library outside of this budget committee meeting?
It's not up to the budget committee.
So you know what? That has happened.
It's not up to the budget.
I asked you a question.
Committee.
When did it happen? When did it happen? And under what circumstances? Did the council make a decision to cut the library? That was not any meeting that I saw. When did it happen?
Don, you wanna?
Yeah, we brought some scenario planning to balance because we're legally required to have a balanced budget. We're on a direct trajectory and then general fund to be exhausted. So we, kind of took the necessary measures, brought them to council. They agreed with the plan to be implemented.
When did it happen? Because it's not in a public record anywhere. When did it
It
happen?
was like, it is, we talked about it.
When did it happen? Absolutely never happened, was never moved and seconded. That is an illegal act. And I,
Ask that specific question to Gloria when you submit questions.
when did it
I
happen?
don't think we're gonna have that happen here right now.
But a headcount change or a budget change?
It
What
was
Lori
a
said,
head count change
what
and
Lori said was,
it's not,
Just the library.
Okay.
Yeah, and doing a supplemental budget or anything like that does not go to the budget committee.
It goes to the city council.
It goes to city council. It's
When?
all up to the city
When?
council.
When did
What
it
is the
happen?
date? Can somebody look up the date?
When did it happen?
Do you know the date, John?
I don't, not off the top of my
Uh,
head.
There's a date.
there is no record of
Did it
that. I've
happen?
been watching this council like a hawk.
We had the conversation because it was a tough decision on like furloughs and.
So,
When did it happen?
okay, so
Sounds like it did. They'd all said it happened.
Lou?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not gonna be part of, I'm gonna continue to be in here. I'm gonna make my record, and the fact of the matter is this. For Gloria to say, I asked her the question, when was the decision to cut 200,000? She said the decision's already been made to cut $200,000 from the library. Did I correct
You
you?
do the whole budget.
The decision has been made of the head count and layoffs and furloughs. That decision. has-
happened.
That was made by staff, is my recollection. Wasn't approved by council.
No, that went
No.
to the governing body.
Yes, it did.
Well, that was never done by resolution or any other thing. It was never done. And
doesn't
there
have to
was
be
no
by
supplemental
resolution.
budget. There was no, you guys have fallen below 20% reserves. You haven't done a supplemental budget. There's a lot of issues with how this budget's been handled. And the last thing is that to come into this budget committee meeting and say, "I've already made a decision." Why don't you just vote it down, do it right now? If that's what you think you have the power to do. Okay, this is a state commission right now, state committee. This is a state authorized.
in an attempt to
So-
be productive, are you proposing to fully fund the library at the same levels as last year?
Absolutely. I'll second that.
What's your, I didn't make a proposal, but you're seconding yourself.
We're gonna go through all the departments and the cuts have been made and yes. yes.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. Okay, here's a couple other things while we're discussing. I have a lot of concerns about tourism. And the reason is that our city is in a contract right now where we,
Tourism budget.
yes, it's 1.6, 1.4.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah. You'll see it right down.
Page
It's mostly
81.
funded by
Jeremy.
contractor.
81.
81.
So, my concern is this. I have several. And the main concern I have is I want to make sure that we don't end, our people don't end up getting saddled with. And, you know, we can see that times are tough. And we can see that we have limited, we have a $1.8 million tourism with revenues at 1.5, that's at page 1 of 147.
Is that leaving out the lodging tax in there as well?
I think
I'm saying,
lodging tax is in there, transient lodging tax is at the top.
so you said 1.5, I'm saying maybe closer to 1.7.
It's the the contract events revenue is 1.5 that's the number I'm concerned with.
But you have the lodging tax, which goes into the tourism fund as well.
Correct.
Okay. So it's about 1.7 million against an expense of about 1.8.
And so under our contract with the contractor so I've looked at both years that the contractors perform services. And I've been concerned about expenses. And what I'm very concerned about is that if we have a lot of expenses, but we don't get the income, we may end up, the people may end up holding the bag for like $500,000.
Are you implying that, so is the contract fixed, the amount we're going to pay, and then the revenue we get back is variable? That's the way you think about
My
it?
understanding of the contract is that the contractor is supposed to fund their activities through tourism revenues.
Has the contractor,
But if the revenues do not match expenses, the city will indemnify the contractor.
So they aim to break even essentially.
Well, they have
Yes.
broken 2 years. But I am concerned about if we have a sudden drop off in our tourism this year, and that could happen. Because the reviews have not been great.
I thought last year the event was quite well attended. Frankly, I think weather may be the bigger factor.
Well run. too.
Speak up, please.
Weather may be the bigger factor.
How many, how many years have you?
I think the business owners also agreed with that.
Probably not every year, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 years.
Okay, so let's just say this. I think that there's mixed reviews. We'll say that your personal perspective is good.
I think foot traffic was up.
So, well, I don't wanna, let's just say this.
You'll have
What
an opportunity to speak with the tourism.
What risks are you willing to take with our public's money? I view, first of all, I think the expenses are, let's just say, not well controlled at all.
What do you think the level of risk is? If this goes south, how much are you concerned about? Because you're
Why?
concerned about the
Yes.
financial risk
Yes, I am.
into
I'd say there's a
100,000.
say there's a 50% chance of a risk to the public of $250 million. That's my assessment. And so I think that in light of how thin our margins are, that if we just say to the contractor, we'd like you to be, rather than providing a 1.4 million budget, say $500,000, $600,000 budget, make the event smaller, be more conservative on your expenses. And then we end up with more money, then great. We all enjoy it, but it definitely hedges against risk.
So the
Propose a cut of 2/3 essentially.
the budget committee isn't the contract body here. It's not up to the budget committee to alter the contract with the tourism.
All right, so
Is the contract multi-year?
So what was supposed to happen is that we were supposed to get a year budget from the contractor by the end of January. That was going to be then reviewed and approved by the city. And then that budget was supposed to be then approved by the end of March. My understanding, having made public records requests, contractor has not provided us with a budget. Neither has it been. And one of the ideas about changing to this contractor is that we would have a contract. So I look at this as a very uncertain thing. I have no idea what this contractor is going to spend. And so when I hear from the staff that it's not up to us, we certainly can tell the contractor what their budget is. And so when I hear from staff, I just haven't heard that we even know what their plan is. How much do you plan to spend? There's nothing. And I don't like it. And I've looked through their stuff, and I'd be happy to send you the public records requests that I've gotten, and you can see how they spend money, and then you can decide if you share my concern or not. And I would love to hear somebody saying I should feel more at ease.
So I'm looking at the fund and what I see is 200,000, 300,000, I think, of extra funds needing to be infused to offset what must be the gap coming from Halloween Town contracting. And this,
It's from all the events throughout the year.
that's the main one that drives that.
Well, and so, the
I'm
fact
just
that
trying
we're
to-
using money at all should not be occurring, because we have we did get about 1.2 million of revenues last year, 1 point.
But it would essentially be fair to say it costs 300,000 net.
It should not cost anything, but
No, just, that's where we're at. So in the last year,
Yeah.
tourism essentially costs
cost the
more than
people
it generates.
$300,000.
300,000.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Not, just the city's view, not, surrounding businesses and economics that get impacted.
Well, and I mean, you know, we could bring the business owners in here. Right? We're on a budget committee and my concern is this. I simply don't want to see the people take a big loss. We're already talking about, you know, what are we gonna do about the library? What are we gonna do about our police? And you know, how are we gonna manage our expenses? And I am concerned, and I'd be happy to share with anybody who wants how the money is being spent. And my concerns, I think, are not just based, I have concerns because I see the expenses and I've asked questions and we don't have a budget and this is real money.
You're talking about just tourism right now, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I just,
I think
I
we
basically
understand.
wanted to cut their budget back and tell them, look, guys. Give us a thinner cut, you know, you're not gonna get 1.4 million. We're gonna give you 750,000, do the best you can with it. And let us know how it turns out.
Yeah, I think the city's under contract. Short contract.
Right. Current, yeah, so we can tell them what their budget is. I mean, we were supposed to be able to review their budget anyway. We haven't reviewed their budget, so they have no budget. We're the budget committee.
Any input on
I
that?
think maybe the point being, you can't back out of the contract.
I'm not trying to see, I'm just saying,
So it'll be an expense. It'll just have to get balanced somewhere else if there were to be a cut
Correct.
in this tourism budget.
well, there's not a lot of money. I mean, it sounds like you've gone through it and you see there's, I mean, if there's money there, we could
No,
all just
I
say,
agree.
yeah,
Agree. There's no.
thank you.
And just to say it out loud, I think it's very reasonable to have budgets from a contractor. It would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have one.
Is there a reason we don't have a budget?
From them. We've been back and forth a little bit with them about budget and they were supposed to send us a budget before we published the proposed budget. But we did not receive that in time to incorporate it here.
Yeah, and I'm not, look, I'm just trying to hold them to that, what they need to be doing and make them think what they spend of our money and the risks they take for us mean something.
Yeah, have them take it as serious as you're taking it essentially.
Thank you. That's why I brought it up.
I think it's a good point.
Thank you.
It's a good point.
Okay, any other salient points before we?
Just wanted to make one point, because I heard it out there a lot, and I think that there was, some stuff that was being said that like there was a plan to like close the library, and I think it's been heard many times, and I don't recall like council ever saying that, or that was the intent to ever close the library at all, just to make that clear. I mean,
There's still budgeted staff, right?
right, yeah, I just wanted to make that clear because it got shared out there, and that's never been the case.
Right.
I agree. I heard that actually on a news channel.
Right, and that's.
And I looked
that's
in
the
here and I
problem with,
see it.
it's the problem with.
Now,
misinformation on
they had
board.
said they're cutting the budget 25%, fine.
Right.
That is two staff members.
25%.
Right, I mean, that
The cutting of the budget is not
is
accurate.
different than taking out.
I think, John, you have the date for when we
Oh,
discussed
we had
that.
the April 1st meeting.
Yeah, that's when that happened, Steve, if you'd like to go back, because I like records too. So if you'd like to go back and review that city council meeting, April 1st, conversations with council.
I heard conversations. I'm with you there. I heard what the plan was. And I didn't hear resolutions and I didn't hear,
It doesn't require a
Yeah.
resolution.
well, Gloria, with all due respect, we're in a state committee here and we get to decide and vote here what the budget will be. And if we decide to fully fund the library, that's what we decide to do. But nothing's been decided, nothing.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Lou. And one other concern, one other thing that I noticed in my review of this stuff is there was a increase in the costs of police. And this is something that people can run into the corner if they want to. One of the costs was $550,000.
That's laid out in some of the text, actually. It talks about report writing efficiency?
No, that's that, my understanding.
Or it's crime statistics, that's what.
CCOM, no, CCOM.
This 911.
So yeah, if that fails, then at this time, the information we have been provided, if 911 levy city or government agency will have to pay the fees and
Will be
we
billed.
will be billed. So that's an additional 550-ish thousand that we would be hit with, county would be hit with, Scappoose, whatever the case may be. I don't have all the details on it, but that is something we had to.
It has been factualized at this point. It's
No.
just, hey, this doesn't pass, this is what you guys.
And we
did.
had, that's why it's in here.
I did get a voicemail from the 911 guy, because I called and left a voicemail and said, "Hey, I'm on the budget committee. I see there's something called CCOM 550,000. Do you know what that is?" And he did say that is a potential, not a potential fee that may be asked of the city of St. Helens in the event their levy doesn't pass. So I'm just and so that's in our budget.
Right.
As
In the police
as a potential additional cost.
And that's
that
why we put it
may or
in.
may
So
not-
that's sort of an uncontrollable cost that may show up.
Right.
So if you were to hold that aside and look year over year, that's an even bigger decrease to the police budget, just right here. Because we're already looking at
What?
some decrease year over year. At least,
So we were 5.5 last year and we're probably gonna end up with 6 million this year. We're 6 million
I think the
actual.
wages are down though, and I think even over like the 4-year period, it's might be down. And so I think that, take the 550 out, but there must be some other things in non-wage going on.
Yeah, there's almost.
Because even retirement's actually down the cost, which is surprising. I know you noted it went up twofold since 2000.
And Jeremy, I went through the trial balance for the last 3 years and looked at that and raised a lot of different questions on, there was a lot of issues with the previous administration budgeting. So there were problems there with the report writing. It was underreported, and that's why you see on the budget it being over and under 1 year. Fleet vehicle was misbudgeted. So that's why you see, right. And that's why if you go back to the special session after I had gone through the trial balance, because wanting to understand what I look at red flags for the police department. Why are these costs like this? And that's what it was explained. It was not budgeted correctly. You had the report writing system, and that's because we had an agreement at one time to do a shared cost. And Gloria, please jump in.
With
Right.
Scappoose
Yeah,
and the
but
county.
jump in if I'm wrong with anything. But it was supposed to be a shared cost with county and Scappoose. Scappoose had pulled out at the last minute, which left the cost share between us, which increased the budget. Fleet management was another issue. There were issues on the budgeting on that side. There was also a budgeting issue with overtime. And then the overtime piece, like if you look at the budget as a whole, like looking at the whole picture, it's vastly different than like the overtime is because they were obviously. But what was not taken in consideration was that there was actual approved positions for FTEs that were not filled. So if those FTEs were actually filled at that fully loaded, it would actually have either probably broke even. So while overtime has been discussed, the reality is that if the FTEs would have been filled on the approved budget, the overtime would not have been as it was.
Similar.
Right. And so that's been something that's been brought up quite a bit. Can you make sure that I'm accurate in what I'm saying? I don't want to be wrong.
No.
Something. You're right.
That's helpful. The overtime line is certainly.
Because when you see that, it looks like, oh my gosh, it's this runaway train and it's out of control, right? And it doesn't matter if it's public works, it doesn't matter if it's rec, it doesn't matter what department, if we see a red flag like that, but then why is that? We look at the open positions. It's either probably a break even or we might have been better off on having them work overtime than actually filling the FTEs on a fully loaded. It's about 190, right? Fully loaded.
So here's my thought on that, there are options of scheduling that the chief has that he has not implemented. That could reduce
Is that like you're
8 hours.
taking a shift,
hour shift.
like taking a 24-hour coverage down?
Yes, there's many things. I mean, there's 8-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts. People don't want to work 10 hours. They don't want to work 8-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts for whatever reason. They want to work, 8-hour shifts, or they want to work 10-hour shifts. And I think that It's gonna be. I think that the overtime, and anytime the overtime is like it is, it just jumps off the page. I don't think it's our job to run the police department at all or to manage it. What concerns me is that I think it's the job of the police chief to take the budget that he's given and to stay within it. And what that means is that need to anticipate that, you know what, I gotta keep some money in the tank. If we got a stabbing, we've got we have a lot of pressure, like, we have a situation, all hands on deck, 2 or 3 days. You have to keep 2 or 3 days of those in the tank. And if you end up at the end of the year with some extra in your budget, you come back and say, look, that's my cushion I need in case we got a situation. The way I see, and our chief is new. And he, I want to be, say the guy's, let's say, doing the best he can. And what he can do, but the way I look at the overtime, it's a lot of scheduling. And so I don't think it's my job to tell him, hey, you need to do a different schedule. His job, stay within the budget. And he didn't. And so I think when people are, we wanted to have a discussion about management of money. And so this is a discussion about that.
Was he do you know how long he was actually chief? He wasn't responsible for this entire budget cycle. He came in what is it, like sworn in is it August? So he wasn't responsible for the whole budget. So that's why he provided the clarification on where I think that there was misbudgeting and errors in the police department. And I think it's gonna be interesting to hear, because just like we want to hear from Mohammed from Public Works, we want to hear from Suzanne, understanding that and the dynamics, because like looking at overtime, I agree with you, like whatever a budget is, you got to stay within the budget, right? Regardless of what it is. However, like, I think it's good to understand that, if you have 8-hour shifts, you're going to be looking at a lot of overtime in general. And I think it's important. I'm not a subject matter expert, but listening, when the chief gets here, we can ask all of those questions so that we all have the information of the methodologies of why, right? But the budget is a budget, no matter at the end of the day, what it is, and they're responsible for maintaining and operating within that budget.
I agree.
I think we all agree with
And I
that.
think there may be less in the tank, and really, I think and then, how he's gonna deal with it is gonna be a challenge for him.
He has a master's in public administration. I think he's probably very qualified to run the budget.
You can see from the numbers I put up there that some of our finest that are doing a great job are making a good living. And so the question is, how can that be managed? Overtime needs to be managed. Gotta be managed.
Okay, I want to move on. I want to get public comments, not yet, but want to make sure we have time for that. Gloria, could you give us instructions for next meeting? And one of my questions will be, can we have department heads, including the police chief, here?
So next meeting, we'll have all of the department heads here and available for questions. I asked the committee to send your questions, written questions to us, and have those to us by Monday morning, so that I can make sure that all the department heads, relevant department heads have time to answer those. And we'll compile a Q&A and share that all to you at the next meeting on the 14th.
I can say something really quick about public comment. I just want to say, if anybody's here that sent in public comments to, the council or to Gloria, we appreciate that. So we've received some that we have here, just so you know that they've been printed out, they've been given to us, and we do read them. Hopefully everybody has read them, but we did get them, and we appreciate getting those comments as well. And Steve, thank you for, it's a rough start, but I think that
we're
we
getting
are
there,
working
Mayor.
towards the same goal. And I like how this conversation has ended up, so.
One thing, if I may, little one, next time.
Yes.
And then Gloria will be sending out slides that you presented today.
Yeah.
We
Slides.
have copies for you now.
I may be slow, but they're gonna come out by email too,
Sure, they can.
please, because I
Yeah.
like electronic stuff.
Yep.
You will send her all the stuff, just so she can,
Oh, yeah.
They-
Oh, look,
we'll make sure
actually, I sent it
everything's
to
accurate.
Jamie. I sent to Jamie the slides that I sent.
Got that.
I like that agreement, present whatever, but make sure it's accurate.
Larry, we have a copy of all the slides right now that were on the board that we can take with us.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And she will email them.
And then I think really, we are, whether this levy pass or what is it, what do you want to say?
Fee.
Levy.
Whether the fee passes. Is, let's just say it doesn't, it may, but let's say, because I think it's a lot easier to plug money. Then we're still going to be in a position of having to decide. What is going to be next year's budget. So I am willing to take on the task between now and next week of going through my opinions of what should be cut and where. Hearing public comment today and not making up my mind. It's gonna be in pencil. This is simply in pencil. And I am willing to do that, and I think that others should be willing to share their views. And then we're gonna go move forward with knocking the ball around and eventually get to a decision.
I would like to hear from the department heads also. Before I vote. I think
This
this
is just, well, I want to start and just figure it out. What does this look like? And trying to get it in my mind. I mean, what are we really talking about here so that we're prepared? I'm not prepared as I'd like to be today. I feel ready to move forward with that task.
Question, Gloria, how much time have you spent with the department heads going through the proposed budget? I'd like to know that too beforehand, like,
So each department basically developed their budgets.
okay, so on the proposed budget, this is ones that the department heads have already basically submitted to you.
Right.
For the budget committee.
Right.
So they have had participation in that. I just wanted to ask about that because I think it's important that it's not something that was just put out here for the budget committee.
Right.
I mean, I don't know the answer. I assume that you met with
Right.
everybody, but
All the departments have participated.
Well, I think one of the questions that I may say is, okay, what does this mean to be cut? 25%.
Yeah, we'll know.
What is gonna happen here? And what about if you had another 100,000, another 150,000? Well, what is it gonna mean to, honestly, there's really not enough money and I think there's gonna be a lot of cuts in a lot of different departments. And so I do think that, I feel that that's something that I'm gonna do, and I would ask that other people do it too, is be ready to at least start figuring out where these cuts are gonna be. And if the voters decide we got more money, well, that's gonna be really easy to turn back around and fill things in. But I think until then, we really need to start talking about what it is we're talking about. Cause it's gonna happen.
We'll have clarity talking to the individual department heads. Those specific questions.
Luke, can we take a 5-minute break before comment?
We're going to.
Nice.
So Dorothy, go ahead, give us the questions. And then we'll take a break.
So instructions are, get me written questions by Monday morning. And we'll do a compilation of those, of the Q&A for the next meeting. And that would be it.
Great. Okay, let's take a 7-minute meeting, break.
Just want the best for, say, I wish there was more.
We budget for like a fog.
We needed that, we needed gavel.
Part sounds better.
Fine.
Start it.
Really way too far.
Always move forward. I'm telling you, way more, but we'll talk.
Plus with the trap door or something.
He sounds like a good guy.
So fun.
I very much. Good about.
So at this time, we would like anyone who wants to give public comment from the gallery. We're gonna limit it to 3 minutes. If you've submitted something in writing, don't comment again. And everyone's going to be cordial. We're gonna hear some really good things we want to hear from the public. You've been kind of introduced to this process and you've been exposed, and I'm sure we'll have some good comments to take home. So who would like to make a comment from the audience? Oh, and when you do, stand up, say your first and last name, okay? Sir?
My name is Alexis Ferguson. So the first things I would like to point out is that the decision like this, I think it really has to be carefully weighed, the considerations, like I understand the importance of public safety, obviously, but I think at the end of the day, we have to consider what it means to be a community, and what sort of positive values we're actually advocating for, not just what sort of negative things we're trying to prevent, right? The other thing to consider is, things like libraries, they do actually help in an indirect way with things like police work, same thing with parks, right? Because you remove those services, it's very well established, crime rates go up, robberies go up, also, like petty crime, oftentimes serious crime, all of those increase, and that's gonna create an additional burden on the police. So I think that's an important consideration when you weigh these things, especially when you look at the relative cost of different departments. I did have a prepared statement I kind of want to read. So our library system took generations to build with the legacy extending well before the current buildings, but it can be dismantled in a single budget cycle. Once gutted, libraries rarely come back. The logic of this budget is simple, but I feel it is somewhat short-sighted. Fund what's visible, cut what isn't. The people who will be hurt the most by this logic are the ones with the beautiful president. The person with the home office and a book budget will barely notice. The kid without internet at home, the job seeker, the person in poverty trying to access services, they will notice. A library is one of the last truly public spaces. It's free, open to everyone, asking nothing of you while providing innumerable valuable services to the community. The police department serves a vital function and safety matters, but safety cannot be the whole of what we offer each other. A library doesn't enforce anything. Instead, it offers knowledge, space, access, the chance to become something more. That's precisely why it's easy to cut. Its benefits are diffuse. They don't show up in a spreadsheet. But a society that only protects the tangible abandons the things that make society worth protecting. Shared values, education, the possibility of a meaningful public life. Good governance isn't just about preventing harm, it's about building something. That requires a commitment to our institutions and, in my view, our library. Thank you.
Well said. Somebody else? Right here.
Mac Tenega, a citizen. I think a lot of good things got happened tonight, but I think if you'd started off with a point of a budget based on the money that we know we're gonna have, not including, the $24 service fee, not including the 911 levy, both of which are almost certainly gonna go down. And then figure if they pass, then you put money back against what you would have been forced to talk about cutting tonight. You'd probably be a week ahead of where you are right now. And if you started with that point next week, you'd be a week ahead of where you would be the week after that.
Thank you. Yes.
Dan Zuccarini. First of all, I'd like to say that I appreciate everyone trying to speak up, but it is really tantamount during these meetings for us to be able to hear you. And voice projection is not all that difficult. Okay. I'd like to make a comment about the police from the standpoint that the idea that has been thrown out more than once that we need to keep X number of officers because we put all this investment in their training or whatever. I say, this is kind of like the stock market. You bought a stock that's a dog. You might have to cut your losses and move forward, especially if you're running out of money. You may have to do that. And I don't think it's a valid point to hang on to X number of officers because we put the investment in them. We don't have the money to keep them now. Now is the time to cut the losses and move forward. I also think from my limited comprehension of all of the discussion here that the idea of separating the police into their own, what's the word? Fund? No, yes, makes sense. I think that the people are going to be able to understand better what's going on with the city budget. If the police is removed, I don't know all the details of how you do that, or, then you have to take their money with them or something. But to start that way and get them out of the general fund is a good idea. Maybe that's a good idea for many of the departments as opposed to having a general fund, but that's just another idea down the road. Okay. Third, I'd like to talk about the library. You have put your library on skeleton crew at this point. As of June 19th, when the 3 part-timers are all laid off and I can't see where, I don't know how much money they make, but at 20 hours each per week, I can't see that the amount of money that you are leaping from laying them off is really making a huge dent in all these millions of dollars that, we're talking about. So you have this skeleton crew that's going to be left over 4 full-timers, which, by the way, they're all sitting in your audience because they're all so concerned about what's going on with the library. And I don't necessarily know that the employees of all your other departments are sitting here, but all your leftover library people are sitting here, and they all have all kinds of back office jobs to do. The director with all the work she does, Brenda with reference and research, Nicole with all her book buying and cataloging and taking care of magazines and programming, and I don't even know all the jobs she does, and Jana with the maker space and the children and the story times. How do you think they're gonna run the front desk? I don't know what you think they're gonna do, and if you bring any more cuts to that library, this is gonna be a sad, sad city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather? You, sir.
Every time.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do the every hand up person here. What's your name?
She was in the back.
And I had this written and I'll give it to you and you can, I don't have enough copies, but I'm basically gonna read it by script. But some things I learned tonight that is not accurate. Okay, so my name is Diana Johnston. My husband Jess and I own 4 business rentals in this town. They're small. The smallest is 339 square feet. The largest is 1,776 square feet. They're not large businesses. Small to moderate revenues are generated. So I understand the city of St. Helens in financial bind, need to increase revenue. But when I opened up my what do you call it? My fee, my license, that's it, business license fee, it went up 380%. That's a lot for us. We're small, okay? So I have paid $200 a year for the commercial rentals, and this year it's now $960. This fee makes no allowances to the size of the rental, the gross income, or other factors. When I called the city of St. Helens, I was told it was, it went up just to $20 per month per door. Flat. No consideration made for the size of the rental, no consideration made for the revenue that is generated. So if that is the case, which I don't know, if a place like Walmart, if it's one unit, are they only paying $20 a month per month? I don't know. Is that the case? So Walmart, Safeway, they're paying $20 a month per month for the same, for their one door, where I'm paying 4 times that at a revenue that's minuscule next to what they're doing. So you could say, well, you give it to your renters. These renters are just trying to make a living. We can't raise their rents $20 a month. One is a barber. One does, he helps, he's a private attorney that works basically for nothing, helping families in need. Okay. So then you have, then I check on other small towns. What do they charge? Scappoose charges $70 per year for the first rental, an additional $5 for each additional rental. Rainier, $45 for the first unit, $5 per additional unit. So you can see, we're not talking apples to apples, are we? So then you have and it was made to be known to me tonight that those subsidized housing, they don't pay anything. Each door does not bring in one extra dime. And yet, as I understand, the police activity has gone up tremendously to especially Broadleaf Arbor. And I'm not putting down a need for subsidized housing. I'm just trying to say the facts. So then I call the city of St. Helens again and ask, well, what happens if I don't pay? I don't feel like paying $960. Do you have anything to oversee to know who the checks and balances? No, they don't. You either pay or you don't. There's only 2 people in that office. They don't have the manpower to check. So since my husband and I consider ourselves honest individuals, we're being penalized for being honest. And yes, I did pay that $960. So I request that this matter be reevaluated. Look at the square footage. Charge Walmart more. Don't charge my husband and I more.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Can we get that, Jeremy?
Chair, members of the Budget Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Greg Pettit. I'm here to ask you to reconsider the size of the cuts currently proposed for the St. Helens Public Library. I understand the city is facing real financial constraints, but the library is not a nice to have. It is one of our most cost-effective and high-impact services. First, the library is a safe, welcoming place for our whole community. It is one of the few indoor public places where people can gather without being expected to buy something. Families meet there, neighbors connect, and community programs bring people together across age and income. Cutting hours or staff doesn't just reduce access to books, it shrinks one of the shared spaces we have. Second, the library provides critical access to computers, printing, and reliable Wi-Fi. For many residents, those are not optional conveniences. They're the bridge to employment applications, school assignments, telehealth appointments, government forms, and staying connected with family. When households are already stretched for rising costs, the library becomes even more essential. I'm not asking you to ignore the budget gaps. I'm asking you to protect the library from disproportionate reductions, especially cuts that reduce open hours, staffing, or technology access. If reductions are unavoidable, please consider smaller cuts paired with a plan to restore services as soon as revenues stabilize. And prioritize keeping doors open during the times the community uses the library the most. A strong library supports a strong St. Helens. Please scale back the proposed reduction and preserve the library's capacity to serve as a community hub and an access point for essential technology. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you. Additional?
Love that.
State your name.
My name is Cecilia Boyce. I am a 10-year-old homeschool student, citizen of St. Helens Public Library. I love our St. Helens Library so much, and just the thought of losing the staff in COVID and days of the week the library is open makes me extremely sad. There are amazing people and programs that I couldn't bear to lose. If this keeps going, we're not just going to lose our amazing programs, lovely staff, and fun days the library is open, but the whole library. I know so many people who care about our staff, people who care about our programs, people who care about it all. It means so much to St. Helens to have a library like this one. Why are libraries and parks the places being taken from us? The places we use and need. Why are we losing librarians when we should be losing the crazy ideas people have to cut the library's funding? Why are we losing programs when we should be losing the ideas we can lay off all the librarian assistants and the ones that are left get twice the work with 10% less play? Hey, please don't take away our library funding.
Thank you.
My name is Lindsay Preuss. I am a resident here in St. Helens, a patron of the St. Helens Library. Thank you for allowing us to speak today. I'm here to address the budget cuts regarding the St. Helens Library. Libraries are a cornerstone of our democracy. They provide a place for everyone, no matter their status, to have access to information. Our librarians have created and maintained a hub of generosity and hospitality. And how do we thank these important members of our community? We lay them off after years of dedicated service. How do we thank the remaining staff? Pay cuts. And we leave them with an overwhelming workload after they've lost their colleagues. What does that mean for myself and my family? I'm just one of many homeschooling parents in this town. The library is an indispensable resource to us. We come often, checking out bags of books. My children come with their most recent list of topics of interest. They often ask our librarians at the front desk for help for finding books, and they feel comfortable and confident doing that because these librarians drop everything they're doing and go help them with a smile on their face. I personally have participated in book club. I saved an exceptional amount of money myself by checking books out for myself, my children, and our education purposes. My children have all grown exponentially every summer with the Summer Reading Challenge. This year, that will be more challenging for our librarians. This place and these people have fostered a love for reading in my children and reawakened my own love for reading as an adult. Aside from my own personal experience, this library is a place where our locals without air conditioning during the hottest days of the year are able to go and cool down. It is a place to learn the next steps when you're in the throes of grief after losing a loved one. It's a safe place for kids to gather after school. One of the rare places in society where everyone can be represented in some way under one roof. I want to leave you with this. The St. Helens Public Library and staff deserve better from our city's government. We, the people of St. Helens, Oregon, ask that you find a way to restore funding to our local library. And to Dan and Michelle and Terry, I cannot express how sorry I am. To Nicole, to all of these precious people that we love so much, our community is truly losing without your service. So thank you guys.
You stand up if you have something to say. Somebody? Oh, great.
Hi, my name is Sarah Stevenson, and I'm a resident of St. Helens. I'm here because I'm concerned about further budget cuts to our beloved library. As you're aware, with the responsibility of your role, our library operates at a fraction of the funding as the police department. And yet the library serves residents of all ages every single day that they're able to be open. When I saw the mailer that went out a few weeks ago, highlighting quantitative information about the city of St. Helens, it's right over here. One thing stuck out to me. And that was how much is going to the police. And how much of a difference in the budget that is proportionately. That stood out to me as a clear sign of the incompetence and or negligence in prioritizing the needs of the city of St. Helens and the voices of all of its citizens. Our library is essential to public infrastructure. It's not a luxury item. Our libraries educate, they provide economic mobility and social services. They provide meeting spaces to support community groups and small businesses. The library is where kids learn to read, teens find safe spaces after school, job seekers apply for work, and unhoused and low-income neighbors access computers, information, and basic dignity. These are just a few ways in which the library serves our community. Just a few ways. We've heard multiple other ways. Other cities that have slashed library funding, forcing shorter hours, staff layoffs, and eliminated literacy programs cause great harm to their community. Great harm. And that harm falls hardest on families, seniors, and people with the fewest resources, folks that we should be coming together for and working the hardest to protect. And when you cut the library deeper than other departments, you're not making a tough choice. Not tough. You're making an unfair one that hits kids, seniors, and low-income residents first. If you truly care about public safety, you should care just as deeply about the institutions that prevent harm before it starts. Libraries and other community services that provide youth programming, homework help, and stable public spaces are proven prevention tools that reduce crime and disorder over time. Research shows that simply increasing police spending is not guaranteed safer communities. Investments in libraries and other social infrastructure directly address the root cause of crime and instability. We pour more money into policing while cutting these preventative services. We're paying more for worse results. I hear regularly from folks throughout our community that they want less spend on policing. They don't want a larger utility bill with another fee that will mainly feed the police. They don't want to pay more and get less. They want to see a budget that puts more toward housing, parks, and libraries, which are the services that make a city livable, enjoyable, educated, and safe. Choosing to protect, increase, and continuing to overspend the city's budget on the police while cutting high-impact, low-cost services like libraries is fiscally inefficient, and it undermines long-term stability and the safety of our community. Cutting the library's budget while continuing to overfund the police and calling that fiscal responsibility is shameful. During tough times, fairness means everyone should proportionately share the burden, including the police department. It does not mean the library becomes the easiest target. As a citizen of the city, I'm asking you to develop a fair proposal that stops treating the library as expendable while shielding already oversized police spending from scrutiny. Because our community deserves a budget that reflects the desires of its citizenry. You cannot claim to represent community values while gutting one of the few places that welcomes everyone, regardless of income, regardless of age, regardless of any other background. I urge you, fix the budget so it reflects real public priorities and the will of its people. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
My name is Tony Morgan. I'm a resident of St. Helens. I'm a business owner. I wrote a whole thing here in support of the library. I feel like those who've already spoken have said what I had to say more eloquently. The things that I would like to address I feel like, making the personnel cuts prior to the budget committee, there was a lot of talk earlier about, how the public perceives these fees, and I think that basically what people are thinking now is that if you cut the library and then you have the budget discussion and then you have the fees, the perception is that that money is just going to the police because you've already got it the library. Because as soon as you take out all the part-time library staff, it shifts that burden onto the full-time people and you start closing down, you're losing already there's like days of urgency. And all of those tasks that those people do are basically if you remove everybody who runs the front desk, then the people who have to do all of the other jobs, then have to run the front desk and which jobs can be done. I'm actually totally fine with paying taxes and fees. I pay property taxes, I pay all income taxes. I believe in supporting our civic infrastructure, but I want to have a voice in that, and I don't like this sort of workaround to where something is done without our say. Like I will happily support the fee. I understand that the city needs money. But I feel like there needs to be transparency and this needs to be, and this doesn't cut. Well, like somebody made the comment earlier, cutting the library doesn't fix the rest of the budget. It's such a drop in the bucket. But it does, it's gonna have a huge impact. I think that needs to be addressed. And yeah, let's fix the budget, but let's not destroy the things that we need in the process.
Great. Thank you, Tony.
Candace Crawford, resident also. I also just wanna say I'm here to support the library. Don't want any of their funding to be cut. I would like their funding to be restored. You guys already cut. And I think the way to do that is clearly by reducing the police's budget. And I also want to say, I think that you guys should have looked at that before this meeting and had like a plan of where budgets, like, we should have been able to hear your ideas for where budget cuts could happen. Like, we should do a staff report for the police. Why hasn't that been done since 2011? So, and then also, I just want to say about the mayor and her like going back and forth with Tashi, very inappropriate. And then also how she talks about citizens who speak out against her on her podcast is very inappropriate.
Anybody else? Yes.
Tammy Magra. I want to make a comment about the library. I think we need it. If you want to do apples to apples, I can assure you that the ladies that work at the library don't make $16,500 a month like the police do. I can assure you there's people in this town, because I've been at meetings when there's been older ladies here that's trying to live on $800 a month. That's a little over $9,000 per year. That's like 2.5 weeks work for a policeman in this city. I think that's disgusting. I think it's greedy. Over the last few years, every time the cops have come here, the city has not questioned nothing they've done, and I'll give them more raises, you know, more money to run their department. It's about time that you start thinking about people in this community that don't have those means to live on. And I think it's disgusting that even this city council that's sitting here tonight gets stipends that's more than a lot of people live on in this community. And that's shameful. And you don't really want to know what I really want to say about it because I'm trying to be polite tonight. But, you know, think hard before you cut the library. Think about people that's less fortunate and cut the police a little bit on their budget. They don't need it. When they can park their car and go in their house and leave it running for hours and get paid for that, there's something wrong with that picture. So that's all I have to say.
I noticed that Gloria, the finance director, has fled the building. It tells you what she thinks about public, that she's here to serve. I also think the mayor's conference should not allow her to participate in this meeting at all. The city has a welfare mentality. We can't talk about police stations we can't afford or a waterfront that we can't afford. But we can talk about every other thing that we can't afford, and I think it's ridiculous. I got my Cadillac budget, but I need food stamps. That's how the city thinks. Everything is on the table. The entire budget is fake. You have $1.8 million in there that we know we're not gonna get. And to talk about that budget like it's real is ridiculous. But lying about the budget is normal here. Gloria lied about getting funds from Treadway, which we've never gotten a dime from Treadway, and then said we didn't get anything from ECC, and she's repeated that lie multiple times. The proposed water bill is a tax, no matter what you want to say about it, Lou, it's a tax. And Gloria says it's not a tax, it is a tax. Wonder why no one trusts the budget when you consider it and tell us that, oh, you're not being taxed when it is a tax. And contrary, again, about Lou saying that, oh, people don't know about broadleaf budgeting, we all know about it. Those are peanuts that we're talking about. 500 units, if Jessica is correct, it's $144,000 a year. It's not worth talking about. This extra $24 fee is going to generate all this revenue. We also lied about 300,000 that you put in the budget that they were supposed to give the fee. In addition to $165,000 from the $5 ticket fee that never appeared. Why is Treadway not being counted for that money that they were supposed to give? That's $465,000 right there. You also lied for 2 years about Millard Road being sold and put it in your budget. That never happened. Then at the circus that was called Town Hall, Jessica Chilton said that, oh, the police were being cut 10%. Then the mayor corrected her and says, oh no, that's not correct. And then the police chief says, oh no, we are being cut. I wish you would coordinate your lie and tell us what's proof. Are they being cut? Are they not being cut? Have they been cut 10%? As far as I know from the budget that I'm looking at online, which is also a fake budget anyhow, the police are the only department that's had an increase. Every person in this city, except for the police, has agreed to take a cut for the next 2 years, no cost of living increase. But cops are still in negotiation demanding an 8% increase. Tell me how that's fair. That's greedy. There are only 3 cities in this state where the police budget is more than 25% of their general fund. Salem, Portland, and St. Helens. Portland and Salem are at 27 and 30% respectively. St. Helens, it's almost 50% of our general fund is for police. Time to start talking about contracting with the sheriff of our police services, which are way overpaid. We all know that the fee is not going to pass. However, if in fact you went and put a bill levy on, which you guys can do at your next council meeting, you could put a $10 fee on a water bill for the library. I think that would pass. People clearly are supporting the library. And if you put that on there and dedicated it instead of separating the police out and wanting a $50 fee that ain't gonna pass, I think people would vote for a $10 or a $20 fee on the water bill to support the library. You ready? Yes.
Adam Smith here. So this is on this day down. I actually agree with Brady Freeman.
You actually.
I really do think that we should separate it out. How does Scappoose pay for their library? It's on the ballot right now. I think the police should be separated out. The public should have the right to say. I'm gonna agree with John Walsh again. This is a day when I'm gonna agree with John Walsh and Brady Freeman. He said, let the citizens pay for the city they want. Separate out the fees. Let's vote if we want the cops to be paid. Let's vote if we want the library to have a fund. I'm actually libertarian. I think we need a 30% smaller government. This is a joyous day for me because they're going to have to make cuts. And a lot of them. Unfortunately, that means the library is gonna get cut along with every other department. But I think we should let the citizens vote on it. It should be what it is. Jeremy, I want to thank you for going through the budget. You seem to know it very well, better than pretty much anybody else here. And, you know, this meeting could have been over a half hour earlier if somebody would put grandstanding.
Thank you.
John, cut it out.
John,
Good talking.
Steve and I are playing next time. Can you feel
We
it?
have somebody online. Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Helmick. I'm a citizen of St. Helens. I had a little prepared speech. I just want to get it pulled up. So, the citizens of St. Helens are looking to all of you for answers, leadership, and accountability. People may not always agree on every issue, but they do expect this process to be handled with maturity, professionalism, and respect. These discussions impact every resident in our community, from public safety and infrastructure to the future growth of our city. That means the conversation held here tonight matter. Citizens are watching closely, and they want to see leaders who can work through disagreements with decorum and focus on solutions rather than division. No matter where we each stand on specific budget priorities, we all share a responsibility to keep this process constructive, transparent, and centered on the people we serve. The community deserves thoughtful discussion, clear answers, and leadership that reflects the best of St. Helens. And I'm sorry, my son is actually currently playing with a St. Helens library book, which is why he's so excited right now. I want to kind of talk about the library. Obviously, we are avid patrons. We go every week, sometimes twice a week. I look at every single one of those employees in the eyes, and I can see some concern about the way that this is being handled. I've always said knowledge is power and power is knowledge. So if we take away a library, we cut a library, we're taking away from the most vulnerable people in our community. Let's be honest, the millionaires of this community, they probably do use the library, but it doesn't have a big impact on their life as the people who aren't millionaires. The people who are looking for jobs, the people who are looking to further their education, those are the people that are going to be impacted the most, not those who've already had their success. So I truly just want to say if we fail our library, we fail as a society. And that's all I really have. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nicola. The other one.
I actually saw them in the library. His son had little books.
Well,
Oh, it's so cute.
okay, well, this part of the meeting, we have to hold a public hearing. We receive state funds from, I call them sin taxes, from cigarettes, alcohol, a couple other items. The state shares them with cities, proportionate to the population. They give us the money, we can't argue to that. We have to have a public hearing. Well, helping the public hearing for us to, whether we want to accept these shared revenues from the state. Are there any comments on that?
Yes. I think that we should postpone this till we have a chance to look at this other documentation that Gloria's going to provide about this other, the shift of so at least we have a chance to look at that. Because I don't think that we are in a position right now that we've received the total budget package. And I don't feel comfortable. Jeremy says he feels comfortable. I don't at all on what's been presented. So, and I'm not comfortable in talking about accepting state shared revenues at this time, because I don't think that we've had an appropriate approach at this point, and that we have something out there that I haven't even seen.
It's my understanding, though, that we would need to vote to accept the funds.
We do, but we don't have to vote today. And so, and I certainly don't want to be in a position where I've been very uncomfortable with the idea that we have this other document that I haven't seen, been able to analyze, and the public hasn't either.
Okay.
And that we should then be voting something like this.
Yeah, I've been clear if I could.
Sure.
So this is a public hearing to hear what the public has to say about accepting the funds. If it's advertised, it has notice period.
So it's not us.
We're not making the decision isn't happening today.
Okay, thank you.
You could have made that clarification earlier. That would have helped us all.
John didn't want a grandstand, so
Public hearing about comments.
The city receiving. the
Okay.
revenues and-
right, I have no comments other than what I've made.
Okay.
Can I ask for clarification? Does this include the gas tax?
Gas tax.
I'm sorry, vehicle, did I use the wrong term? There was a source of funding from a,
That goes to streets.
is that part of this or is that?
This is like the sin tax.
This is alcohol, tobacco.
Tobacco.
Marijuana, and yeah, it's the taxes from that.
It's,
Part of the state shared revenue though.
State shared revenue.
Comfortable, Steve, on moving?
I'm comfortable moving forward with the public hearing that's been noticed. Yes.
Further explanation.
Yes, and I waive any irregularity in that regard.
Okay. Any other public comment? The other public hearing is hereby closed. We will accept the state revenue.
That was easy.
Um,
Everybody's good with this.
okay, I think a motion to adjourn. Lori gave us instructions what's going to happen for the next meeting.
Before we adjourn,
Yes.
I'm willing, I want to be careful about communication. There were things that I displayed here that are going to be shown. I am happy to share it with anyone who asks, but I just want to make sure it goes to. I think Gloria wants anything that goes to the budget committee. Her first. Then there was gonna be a discussion. Does anybody want to see anything? So I've sent to her 4 analyses that we've done. We'll also have the, I have police pay records that I can share. That I displayed here. And show all the data. I have all the data. I have the tourism. I have my public records requests on 2 years of tourism, which is quite an undertaking if you want to shoot through them. I just want to I want to hold them out in case anybody wants them. I'm happy to send them to them. I want to make sure it's done appropriately.
I feel like as a budget committee, my personal opinion is that if you put the effort into the documents and they're valid to the budget, that we should review them. But I go back to my original comment, like, I like the process and I would like it to go through Gloria because on one of the documents, she had concerns on some of the information in there and that way she can, if there is an error or there's a confusion, then she can give us that at that time before it's disseminated.
I given them to John and Gloria, and John did comment that there were a few things that he had thought was.
That's what I'm talking about.
Clarity on.
Right, so I personally like to see the documents. But I want to make sure that they're factual and correct before we're presenting.
So I'm offering to anybody that wants it, they can email Gloria and I will email her. I have the tourism financials for last year, what I've been given on public records requests and the year before, no problem. And then I also had police pay and overtime records, which I have, and I'd be happy to send those to anybody who asks Gloria for them. And I send them right away. Well, I could send them to her.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, I will send the tourism, the last 2 years for the financials. And then the police pay records that I referenced, and those, by the way, were Excel spreadsheets that were prepared, used from the underlying data. So you have use of the Excel spreadsheets. So that consolidates the data. I will say this, that I purposefully left out the names of police officers because this is people's pay and I don't see any reason that we need to display anybody's name. I think that when you're looking at public records, I think we need to be careful that we're respectful for people and it's not really anybody's business who's making any money. The fact that somebody's making this much is one thing, who it is, I don't think it really makes a difference, in my opinion.
I don't think too much information can hurt anybody in this committee. And we've had the discussion about closing. I think we'll take that into consideration.
I will send those documents as well as the raw data and the spreadsheets to Gloria, and then anybody who wants it can get it for her.
The last thing I want to say is, Steve, I want to actually apologize for the beginning of this meeting. And I feel like I was quite aggressive towards you because we have a history, but I'm actually excited to work on this budget committee. And so I want to say that I'm sorry for that and that I look.
I accept your apology, Mayor. I look forward to working.
You're going to apologize back?
I apologize back. There you go. So let's just continue.
Budget.
Let's
Let's work on budget, people.
continue to talk about money. Talk about.
What makes the magic?
I will take a motion for adjournment. Second. I got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? All right.
Hey,
Wait.
it's the